morning, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry. You're listening to the Two Mikes on Talk Sport. We'll keep you entertained and informed throughout the night. Wayne Rooney has finally admitted that he might not be good enough to play for England. The Three Lions captain has also blamed Sam Allardyce for the way he played against Slovakia. The bombshell news has had a terrible effect on the Porkmeister, and the price of his book Rooney Tunes, which has been plunging ever since. You can now get a copy for 50p, by the way. We'll also be talking about Tyson Fury's bizarre confession that he's taken loads of cocaine, and apparently it's nobody's business. 08717 22 3344. Also coming up on the show, we're talking about doppelgangers and how everybody's got one somewhere in the world. And it's Ask Porky, the one place where you can get the answer to almost anything. Fire your questions to the Two Mikes and on Twitter right now. You're listening to the Two Mikes with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on Talk Sport.
Sorry, no, what am I talking about here? No, hang on.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mikes. It's time to say a very good morning to a man who's been shell-shocked by the Rooney news, Mr. Mike Porky Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
And a very good morning to you, Mike. And you're absolutely right to raise the relevancy of the Wayne Rooney situation, which we'll get onto in a minute. And, of course, Tyson Fury and the cocaine. But there's an issue I want to raise with you because... I'm taking to task the whole of the sporting network of this country at the moment.
The sporting network?
Yes.
What is the sporting network?
Well, let me explain to you. When Roy Hodgson came back from a dismal World Cup, he was slated and berated as being a failure.
Quite rightly. Yeah.
And when Stuart Lancaster failed completely to motivate the England rugby team on home territory...
and bring home the bacon.
In the Rugby World Cup, bring them bacon, he was slated and berated.
He was, and fired.
So how come Darren Clarke, who was captain of one of the greatest team failures in the history of British sport, has come home and everybody accepts, his excuses that, a putt here and a missed putt there and a bit of a tackle here and a bit of a tackle there, and that's the difference between success and failure.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about it. Unfortunately for us, we didn't quite hold them, and the Americans did. How come he's not been slated as a failure?
Well, I don't really know. I can only explain that because people quite like Darren Clarke. He's one of these guys that people, think is a hail fellow, well met, great guy to have on the golf course, great partner to have in the bar, full of great stories. And people mention to him he's just too much of a nice guy.
I'll just smoke my big cigar and have a glass of champagne.
I mean, he's kind of an Ian Botham-like figure, isn't he?
Yeah, I just don't get it. I simply don't get it. I mean, and there's Ian Poulter, my former golfing partner, explaining...
Your former golfing partner?
Yeah.
You mean the guy that you once played golf with for a couple of hours?
Yes, that's right, yeah.
So he's not really your former golfing partner.
What would you call him then?
I would say somebody I once played golf with.
Yes, that's right, yes.
Briefly.
Yes, well...
I mean, your former golfing partner is like somebody you play with on a regular basis.
Well, listen, don't start splitting hairs. You always do when I mention the names of the great and the good and associate them with myself.
Well, I have to say, ever since you played golf with Ian Poulter, his career has gone on such a slide that he didn't even play in the Ryder Cup.
Do you know
he had to be a non-playing vice-captain.
Do you know what? You're absolutely right. When I played those holes with him at... the famous golf course, which is in the James Bond
Stoke
movie.
Park.
Yeah, where Sam Allardyce was playing.
We heard
a week
good
ago.
story about that today.
We had a very good story. We'll tell that in a minute.
Yeah.
He was number 6 in the world.
Yeah.
He's never been as high as that ever since.
Was that the beginning of the Porky Jigs?
I think it was.
Yeah.
He'd been going downhill ever since, and that's a couple of years now.
Exactly. But I mean, when you talk about, a missed putt here and a missed putt there, the score was 17-11.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, it was a bit more than a missed putt here and there.
I mean, Darren Clarke, a few quotes here, and this is what gets me. They slip back into the country in the early hours of the morning, and just,
I don't think he meant to slip back into the country.
Well, whatever. But all this, he'd say it's a wonderful thing, but even with that, we would have made any changes. I've spoken about this already to my vice-captains. We were confident. A putt missed here or a putt hold outside your opponent, that makes all the difference.
It must make all the difference, but there have had to be an awful lot of them.
Yeah, exactly. It makes all the difference if it happens on every blinking hole over the course of 3 days and God knows how many matches,
Exactly.
12, 18, 24, 30. I mean, honestly, I know we all, poor old Darren Clarke, he didn't do so well.
But I think, do you not think in the world of sport and the media, there are heroes and villains? We do a little feature on that. And Darren Clarke is one of those guys that can do no wrong. He will never be attacked for anything.
And when Nick Faldo was a losing captain, everybody said, well, he was never a captain.
No.
He was, and
There's
he was
people like to pile on top of him.
Yeah, he was slated and berated. But, old Darren Clarke, I just don't understand it. I think the man should be...
he's never going to get the job again, is he?
Well, no, of course he'll never get the job again, but even if he'd won, he probably wouldn't get the job again. You only ever get it once, don't you? Some of them do it twice.
Well, sometimes David Love III did it twice, didn't he?
That's right, he
Which
did,
is quite hard to remember. David Love VI.
Yeah, that's right, absolutely.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm just saying, is it because golf is seen to be a gentleman's game and therefore they are beyond criticism,
it's
whereas
not so
football
much
and rugby are more working-class pursuits and therefore, we'll bash them up in a few tabloid headlines, huh? Is that what it's all about?
Well, I think, all right, calm down. I think it's also, you just don't want to talk about how Rooney's lost the plot, do you? No. But we'll get to that in a minute.
Yes.
The point is, I think, that with golf, the guy has a go at it for one Ryder Cup, and if it's no use, he doesn't get another go, which is good, because the trouble with Roy Hodgson is, he gets a go at the World Cup in Brazil.
That's right.
But unfortunately, because he didn't get the sack, which he should have done, even though he was castigated by us.
That's right.
Not Ian Danter, by the way, who stood by him and said that we should definitely keep him and send him off to France to be in charge of the Euros, where he failed again.
Exactly, yeah.
So he should have been actually treated much worse.
Yeah, well, these things bug me, and that's why I say I think the sporting world needs to, be a bit more introspective in these things, OK?
I'll tell you what bugs me.
Yeah.
Is Gareth Southgate's going to earn £500,000 in 2 months.
For 2 months'
Which is
work.
the equivalent of his entire year's salary normally at the FA. So
that's £3 million.
What on earth has the FA learned? Can you tell me in the last 2 weeks?
I don't know. £3 million
what have they
a
learned?
year. Why? At £3 million a year, he will still be the world's highest paid international boss. And he's only just started the job. Yeah. And we don't know if he's any good.
And he has no track record.
And he has no track record.
And his first game is against Malta, who, with the best people in the world, are part-timers, right?
Yes. And his previous role with some of the, under-21s, under-19s, under-18s... was curtailed because it was felt that he had too much responsibility and he was told to concentrate on the under-21.
And to be fair, since he has concentrated on under-21s, he's done all right, though, isn't he?
Well, they've won a tournament, haven't they? Yeah, they're absolutely right.
Well, that's more than anybody else has done.
Have you seen the footage on the young lad Dembele at Celtic?
Dembele?
Yeah.
No.
It is absolutely sensational.
The footage from when?
Well, this lad's 13 and he's playing for Celtic's under-19s team. Right?
Yeah.
And
so this is a different Dembele to all the other Dembeles?
Yeah, absolutely. He's only 13, this lad.
Right.
And he literally waltzes through defences like... Well,
a knife through butter.
No, that's too much of a cliche. I would say like Rudolf Nureyev might have stepped around a chorus line.
Really?
You know what I mean? Oh, just brilliant. I mean, just.
I didn't know
brilliant.
They had a chorus line in the ballet.
Well, they do, don't they? In Swan Lake.
No, they don't have a chorus
line.
A chorus line is what they have in musicals, which are put on at the West End. They do not have a chorus line in a ballet.
Well, what do they call the chorus line in a ballet?
Well, it's not a chorus line.
A line of lady dancers,
ballerinas
in tutus and.
Well, there's no such thing as a chorus line in ballet, I can tell you that.
There is.
There isn't.
I'm telling you, there is. I know, I've been to one.
You've been to one?
Swan Lake.
Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, what happens?
What?
What do you... What happens in Swan Lake?
Well, everybody knows what happens in Swan Lake. Swan dies.
Does it?
Yeah.
At the beginning or the end?
Well, it dies at the end, you idiot, because if it died at the beginning, it wouldn't be like an operetta, would there?
Okay, well, all right, if you say so. I think it was a ballet you went to.
Well, yeah, it is.
Have you not seen the Nutcracker?
The Nutcracker Suite?
Yes.
Nope. Why, what's that? Who's done that?
Well, that's a ballet as well.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a very famous ballet. It always gets put on at Christmas. They usually take the kids to it. It's very good.
Oh, really?
They have the soldiers marching, and all that.
Oh, no, I don't know anything about that, no. Anyway, listen,
you must know the music.
What?
You must know the music.
That's
it. Yeah. The Nutcracker Suite.
That's it.
We might have to have some classical music
tonight. I knew that. That's brilliant, that. I'm quite proud of myself.
Anyway, £125,000 a match he's getting, basically.
Yeah, I know. And I know, I think
He'll
that's...
be able to afford to go to the ballet.
Do you know what else I noticed today, by the way? Looking at the pictures at St George's Park, where that's where Sam apparently didn't like training. He liked training at the Grove.
He had
the Grove Hotel.
Reasons for that.
Yeah, he thought that there were more attractive staff apparently at the Grove. But anyway, I saw today that Gareth Southgate was adopting the Pep Guardiola body language. Did you notice?
Well, I noticed he's
Did you notice hands in the pockets?
And he's modelling himself a bit on him. He's lost a bit of weight.
Yeah.
He's looking a bit sort of svelte.
Absolutely.
He's got the beard going on.
And his tracksuit is unzipped down to the navel, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hands in his trouser pockets. I'm not joking. And having this detached look, sort of worldliness about him.
Yeah.
I swear to you, Gareth Southgate's been watching too much Pep Guardiola footage of Pep Guardiola in the dugout, and he's trying to imitate him. Yes. Without a shadow of a doubt. I noticed that immediately.
Yeah, good.
It came to me. I'm a trained observer, and I saw it.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you something else which is going to blow your socks off, right? Do you know how when you're filling out a form online and it asks you to give your title of Mr. or Mrs. or Ms., right?
Yes.
Well, at the Royal Opera House, because we were talking about ballet, this was put out on Twitter earlier today. Oh. They've got a drop-down menu, the like of which you have never seen and which you would love, right?
Go
on. Because it says, please choose a prefix, okay? And it could be Commodore.
Yeah.
It could be Councillor.
My mate's the Commodore at the yacht club down on the coast where I'm a member. Yeah, go on. Councillor.
Councillor. It could be Count.
Count.
It could be Countess.
Yep.
It could be Dame.
Yep.
It could be Doctor. It could be Duke of, Earl of.
That's rather extensive,
Father,
isn't it?
General, Group Captain, HRH the Duchess of, HRH the Duke of, HRH the Princess, Senora, the French Ambassador.
How ridiculous
His Highness,
is all that?
And His Honour.
By the way,
isn't that great when you just buy some tickets for the opera?
I know. And by the way, anybody who titles themselves councillor should be fired immediately. Councillors are supposed to do it on a voluntary basis for the good of the community. Shouldn't even be called councillor. Certainly shouldn't take expenses. They do take expenses now, and that turns into a salary because some of them are taking £27,000 or £30,000 a year in quotes expenses. When I worked on the Chester Chronicle as thrusting young reporter, the only thing that councillors ever got were a free drink off the press in exchange for stories which would humiliate their opponents.
Yeah, well, that's not allowed now.
That's how I made my name.
We've got humiliating people. Yeah, still doing it.
Yeah.
We've got loads more coming up. Of course, we're going to talk to Mark Donaldson. He'll have a view on the Ryder Cup and Darren Clark. Of course, we're also going to do Ask Porky a little bit later on as well. We are the Two Mics. This is TalkSport. Take you back to your days at the opera?
Yes, very much so.
Really? What about the ballet?
Same sort of thing, really.
Yeah.
Royal Opera House, you know?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Did you sit in the stalls?
I sat in the seats, like, on the same level as the stage.
That would be the stalls?
Yes, that's right, They're the most expensive
Did you go to the crush bar?
I'm not aware of going to the crush bar.
That's where you order your drinks for half time.
Oh, yeah, I did that, Yeah, I did that,
How many did you order?
2 bottles. Well, there were 3 of us.
Of course. You probably ran out then.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, how about this from DW in Belfast? Porky's attempt at Darren Clark's accent is pathetic.
No,
Give up, Porky. You sound more like Darby O'Gill. Who's Darby O'Gill?
Darby O'Gill is. I'm not trying to imitate Darby O'Gill.
Right.
But
I've got a great one here from Jacob or Jacob. He says, some of the customers' reviews of Rooney Chins on Amazon are better than the book itself. And there's a great one here, which I don't think I've seen before, which is written by Ian. Right. I felt robbed of my penny. Mr. Parry has clearly written the worst book in the history of mankind. How the hell was this ever published?
That's very harsh.
He must have friends in high places.
Yeah, it's very harsh indeed. I think so.
Yeah.
Anyway, Alan here says, MG, please tell Porky not to try and sing or shout. Been trying to get rid of a headache all day, and it's just come back. Yeah. That's a terrible thing to say, that. I haven't been singing or shouting anyway. Just been.
Well, actually, somebody said, Dazza says this, Nutcracker's sweet. At least when he hums, he can't get any of the words wrong to the song.
Yeah, well, exactly.
# plank. And David says the chorus line involves a chorus.
Yeah, exactly. Can I just remind you, there are no words in the Nutcracker suite, so you can't get the words wrong,
That's what he just said.
You dope.
That's what he just said.
No, he said because you're humming it, you can't get the words wrong. Well, there aren't any words.
Well, that's what he means.
Now, Fordy here is obviously a regular listener because he's referring to my brilliant analysis of the life of Mel Charles last night.
Oh, yeah.
Mel Charles being John Charles's brother,
yes,
who sadly died at the age of 83.
Yeah, illiterate to the day he died. Right?
Illiterate. And he says, worth looking, Mike, at Mel Charles's Wikipedia page, a few interesting firsts in his career. A fine player.
Was that it?
Yeah.
It's not very interesting.
Well, no, I think it is, because, of course, he was illiterate.
But you told us all the good stuff about him.
Yeah. Pele said he was the best defender in the world, so that's all pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff.
Well, it's not a very interesting tweet, though. I prefer this one from the Professor. Swan Lake has a chorus line. What a plank. The singing swans.
Yeah, the singing swans. Now, Stephen here says, Porky Jinx again. Thought we were struggling this season, but Swans now to stay up after listening to yesterday's podcast. Yeah. Now, the Swans, of course, are now run by...
Bobcat Bob.
Bobcat Bob. I got you now, boy. That's probably what he says to his players in training.
We're going to get Mark Donaldson on in a little while. Because I'm sure he will know quite a lot about Bobcat Bob. And he may have a different view from you. And I'm still saying that Bobcat Bob is going to do brilliant.
Now, what about this? I think do dreadfully.
Now, a couple of people people have sent in doppelgangers of you.
Yes.
One is Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah,
the second is Julian Assange.
Julian Assange. I mean, that man's a menace, and to be associated with him is a damn disgrace. I'm telling you. I wish somebody would. I wish the SAS actually, as a practice.
You can't wish that.
No, I do. As a practice exercise, would burst into the Colombian embassy.
Well, they would find him there, would they?
Where is he? In the Peruvian?
No, he's in the Ecuadorian.
Oh, the Ecuadorian. That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Can you imagine the SAS? First they go to Colombian, then they go to the Peruvian one. Where is he? Where's Julian?
Yeah. Oh, he's in the Ecuadorian. Oh, right, okay. We'll burst into the Ecuadorian embassy under the guise of being, sort of renegade, anti-Ecuadorian government people.
Yeah, right.
Snatch him, get him out. And all this, I'm sorry, is all fictitious, by the way. I don't really want the SAS to do this.
We don't want to do him any harm.
No, don't do him any harm.
If he worked in the Ecuadorian embassy...
just extradite him, take him to Heathrow, put him on a plane.
Yeah, where to, though?
Well, isn't it...
He doesn't want to go to Sweden because he fears that in Sweden he will be tried for a crime that he says he didn't commit.
No, he fears...
As George Galloway said... You do not require permission for each insertion of all of the various times that he was getting involved in horizontal refreshment with this woman.
That's right. But I think he fears more not being tried in Sweden, but the Swedish authorities being put under pressure by the American authorities to extradite him back to America to be tried for releasing state secrets.
Yeah, but nobody cares about that now because Hillary Clinton's given away more than Snowden ever did.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
I have to tell you that they've also put me up as Michael Gove. Many people have said in the past.
That is a very similar sort of...
I think that's only because of the glasses, really.
Yes.
I prefer Austin Powers, and they've also done me up as...
Austin Powers, yeah, that's right. Hey, listen, we got one here from Sam.
Shagged Me.
Sorry?
The Spy Who Shagged Me was the name of the second movie.
I'm not sure we could use language like that on a
it's the name of a
show.
film. It's the name of a film.
Good God.
What's the name of a film?
Well, I mean, just wash your mouth out. Now, Sam here says, hi, guys. Quick one from me. Staying at the Essex House Hotel ce soir. That means this evening in French. Any tips for Rogerisation? And
isn't that an Ask Porky?
It is an Ask Porky.
Well, why are you reading it out?
Well, because I didn't realise it was an Ask Porky. But it's great to see the Essex House Hotel logo in the background. It's my favourite hotel in New York.
Speaking of which,
Central Park
the lovely Sandra Lee will be joining us tomorrow night.
Yes.
But we won't ask her about that, though, obviously.
Sorry?
We won't ask her about that.
No, indeed.
This is a great one from Sladoth, who says, thanks for ruining the ending of Swan Lake for me. I'm going to have to sell my effing tickets now.
Why? Well, it's obvious that the swan dies, isn't it? That's what it's all about. It's a tragedy.
I think he's being facetious.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Right, here we go. It says here, hi, Mike's, plural. This is from Lee.
Right.
Could you give a shout-out to Rachel and Lee, who got engaged in Paris at the weekend, both massive fans of the show. Cheers. Well,
yes.
All I can say is, Lee and Rachel, I hope you have a wonderful life. I hope it stretches beyond the horizon and beyond the universe, and that your life is full of joy, happiness, and replenishment.
Well, it will be if she never meets up with you on any sort of holiday scenario.
Bit harsh.
Where you'll try and, somehow manoeuvre her away from him. Also, I've got one of those. Hi, Mike. If you get a chance, could you wish my dad, David Robinson, a happy 70th birthday for tomorrow? He's a big fan of the show. I assume that's today, Wednesday.
Right,
so,
okay.
Happy birthday, David.
Yep, very happy birthday. And talking about doppelgangers, and we haven't even spoken to the guest yet about doppelgangers, and everybody's at it. One here from a West Ham fan, Richard, who sent in those two old guys from The Muppet Show.
Oh, The Muppets, yeah.
And says that's you and me.
These are all tweets that came in way before the show started.
Really?
Yeah. Have you not been keeping an eye on Twitter?
Well, I'm so busy these days.
What have you been doing?
Sorry?
What have you been doing?
Having my nose operated on.
Yeah, right. Was that painful?
Yes, it was.
Was it?
Yeah. Do you know your nose is a piece of cartilage?
Yes.
It's not actually...
Well, do you remember Diana Westbrook?
Oh, yeah.
Westbrook?
Hers disappeared, didn't it?
Yeah, well, the septum disappeared.
The septum disappeared
in the middle.
Because she
did so much cocaine.
Snorted so much cocaine into
even more than Tyson Fury, apparently.
Yeah, mine's got a bit of a lesion type thing on the end.
A lesion?
Yeah, a lesion.
Really?
Lesion is like
a sore?
Yeah, that's right, a bit of hard skin, I think. So last time I was with my physician, he suggested that...
Dr. Banner?
No, not Dr. Banner. He's my heart cardiac consultant.
It's a different specialist.
A different
was this done on the private, was it?
Yes, it was, yes.
Oh, yeah.
And,
man of the people.
Yes, that's
so
right.
So you jumped the queue?
No, I got I got out of the queue to allow a member of the working class brigade to get in. So, if you see what I mean. To get into the queue.
The working class brigade?
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
To get into the queue. Because I thought, well, look, all I've got to do is sort of give up a bit of booze for a week and spend that money on my own health and release
you have
funds.
To give up booze for a week? What, just for your nose?
Yeah.
Really?
Release funds from the NHS.
Are you on medication?
I am actually, yes, yeah. And I tell you what, the anaesthetic, so I was saying, so it's the nose, right?
Yeah.
So what the guy says is, this is the dermatologist, he's a consultant.
So does a cartilage mean that it has less sensitivity?
No, it has much more. It has much more. The nose is made of cartilage, the rest of your body's made of, like, skin, but your nose is made of... So what's your problem?
Well, the rest of your body's covered in skin.
Yeah, well, it's covered in skin.
It's not made of
right.
skin.
Yeah. Well, if you know what I mean. But your nose is made of the same sort of stuff that stops your bones jarring against each other in your knee joint, cartilage, right?
Well, when people have cartilage operations.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's right. So,
could they ever take the cartilage out of your nose and use it to transplant cartilage into your knee?
Why would they do that?
Well, if you needed a cartilage transplant.
Well, I haven't needed a cartilage transplant. I wasn't a professional footballer.
No, but if you did, could they take some out of your nose?
They normally take it from, like, your buttocks, I think, or somewhere like that.
I don't think you've got any cartilage there.
Well, wherever you've got it. Anyway,
Gomez has got an injured buttock.
Who has?
You know, the German player, Gomez.
Is he?
Yeah, he's been pulled out of the game at the weekend. Yeah, he's apparently got a clenched buttock.
Well, I'm not going into that. I mean, now then, the nose. So the doctor says this. He says this will hurt a little. He said because the nose is very sensitive. So he injects me nose.
How big was the needle? Was it one of those giant ones?
Well, I didn't actually see it because I had my eyes closed.
Oh, right.
Because
wise.
He said it will spray from the needle, which it did. But the point is, he said it might make your eyes water a bit. I mean, I'm not joking. I cried about 2 gallons of water.
Painful?
It was very painful.
Yeah, I bet.
And I didn't mean my eyes to water. I wasn't, thinking I will water my eyes or anything, but golly, it was really painful. And that what that does is that freezes your nose, so to speak.
Right.
Sorry, what are you laughing at?
I'm just trying to imagine the scene of you lying there with water pouring out your eyes.
Yeah, it was, honestly, running down my face and everything.
Yeah. Were you sitting up at the time?
No, I was lying down.
Okay. Well, wouldn't it sort of just collect then in pools?
No, I had a pillow under my head, so to speak, so my head was at an angle.
Yeah.
And then it ran off. And then what happened was, then he goes in with a scalpel, and there's blood running all over the place. And
did he show you what he cut off?
No, I didn't want to see it, did I? And they just took it away. And then the other thing about is your nose, which you may or may not have noticed. Yeah. Because most people have nosebleeds from inside their nose, not outside their nose. Right. But if you cut your nose, it takes ages for it to stop bleeding.
Yes.
Ages.
Well, do you know, I cut my nose the other month when I was shaving.
That's right. I was
trying to get a little bit of the hair that was just sort of underneath my nostril.
Yes.
And I did it a bit too quickly.
Yeah.
And it just nicked the bottom end of my nose.
And it bled forever, didn't it?
And it was bleeding for like 3 hours.
Yes, I know. Yeah, it happened. So anyway, I had to put up with all that today. The other thing he said is that this local anaesthetic, is quite powerful, and I have to say now I have a splitting headache.
Do you?
It is very, I feel like I've got an axe in the middle of my head.
Really?
Yeah, I honestly think I feel like I've run into some mad axe killer on the way in.
Don't you want to take some painkillers or something?
No, I don't take painkillers. No, they put you into a position of false security.
Well, they make you feel less pain, though.
Well, no, I just grit my teeth and get on with it.
You're just going to soldier on.
Yeah, in fact, I've got 2 teeth missing to grit at the moment. I've got to get the teeth. I've got to get my mouth filled up with teeth.
Yeah.
And I've got to get my nose sorted. So
you're just falling apart, really, aren't you?
Not really.
That's what we're talking about.
Not really. The heart.
You've reached that age.
The heart works at 1/3 of the capacity.
I've got some great news for you on various fronts.
Oh, you're leaving?
Reveal to you. Very good. Yeah. No, I'm not actually. No, that wouldn't be good news.
Well, hurricane, which is still sweeping through the Caribbean,
which I have to say has also been slightly subject to the Porky jinx. The whole story started with Marcus. I think it was the end of last week, wasn't
That's right, saying, should I go outside?
He was in Barbados. He said, there's a bit of a lockdown on. I don't know whether I should go to work or not.
And
you said...
Don't be a wuss.
Actually, was it from Ask Porky? Was it that as long ago as a week ago?
I think it was, yeah. And I said, don't be a wuss. Yeah. Get outside and go to work. Don't let the weather beat you. Yeah. Since then, it's killed about 120 people.
It's cutting a swathe through the Caribbean.
And I think any time now, it's due to sort of devastate Haiti.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Barbados actually got off relatively lightly.
Barbados got off lightly. It looks like it's going to wreck Haiti. The only thing I can say...
Where is that? Haiti.
Hey?
Where is that?
Haiti. Haiti's half of an island.
Is it near Haiti?
It's near Haiti, that's right, Haiti, yeah. And the only thing I could say is that, sadly...
Do you know what's on the other side of the island?
Yes.
Go on.
Costa Rica. No, the Dominican Republic, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Dominican Republic.
The Dominican Republic.
Haiti and Dominican Republic. Yeah. And the only thing I would say is, and I'm not trying to be little the country here, but if it sweeps across Haiti and wrecks it, the thing is, nobody will really notice the difference, to be honest.
Well, it's a very poor place.
Yeah, it's pretty wrecked already.
It is, but let's hope that they don't get too badly damaged.
Well, exactly.
But unfortunately, the storm does seem to have got stronger rather than weaker over the last few days.
It does, you're
now,
right.
How about this from Peter? He says, wait, I thought Porky was working class.
Yes, I am.
But you talked about the working class brigade.
Well, that includes me.
Does it?
Yeah,
well, apparently not when it comes to the NHS.
No, what I've done is I've decided that, I have a few funds put away for a rainy day and I've decided to spend a bit of that and get my nose done. It's as simple as that.
OK. Are you going to make it smaller while you're at it?
What?
You're going to have it reduced in size while you're at it?
Why? My nose is not excessively long.
It's not particularly, no, but you could have it tapered, though.
No, I'm not having any plastic surgery on it. I'm just having it engineered.
OK.
Yeah.
How about this from Robbie? Well done, Porky, going private and saving the NHS single-handed.
Exactly.
Let's face it, they've spent enough on you.
Absolutely. Well, it's not that they... Yeah, I suppose that I have been quite fortunate in having treatment for the old ticker.
Now, I've got something very exciting to show you.
But everybody will agree that was a good investment. Yeah, go on.
I've got something very exciting to show you. I'm delighted to say that I got a communication today in the office from Stuart Barker.
Stuart Barker?
Who listens to the show.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's my family's maiden name.
Can you hear that? You hear that sound? I'm just emptying out
what was that?
a very nice jiffy bag full of what can only
God,
be described
got
as
hundreds of pens.
Loads and loads of pens. Do you remember last week when you were making fun of me for never having a pen?
Yeah, and I had my £90 pen, and you had your chewed up biro.
Well, Stuart has basically sent me
I can't believe
£100 worth of Pilot pens.
Hang on, is Stuart some sort of pen fanatic or something?
Pen fanatic? Well, no. I assume he might work for them. Because otherwise, I hope he hasn't spent £100 of his own money.
What company?
But look at this, Pilot. I said Pilot pens.
Look.
So look, there's a sort of there's a marker there. This one is very beautiful. It's a fountain pen. Look,
fountain pen.
Stylo Plume.
Ooh, can I look at that,
No, you can't have that one.
No, have a look.
It's a very nice. It's green. You won't like the colour. I've got some G2 metal pens for writing on metal. These are great.
Writing on metal.
This is fantastic. Look at this one. This is one with a set of 3 refills, a cartridge pen.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
3 refills of that one. I've got here a roller ball. 3 roller ball pens. G2 soft grip
Well, they're all
pens.
very nice. You should be all right with pens now forever.
I've got a yellow pen here for working on a building site. Downforce, which is good.
Yeah.
Ultra fine roller ball. These are beautiful.
Yeah, well,
look at this one.
It's very nice.
That's nice, isn't it?
Let's have a look.
So I'm going to have so many pens now that you're going to be jealous. You are now
presumably
going to be
you'll give a few to me because you can't use them all yourself.
No, I'm not giving any to you.
Why not?
These are all for me. These are sent to me, and let me give you.
You don't need them all.
The note that was attached. Here's a nice collection of Pilot pens for you, Mike. You can tell Porky that they are about £100 worth. So trump his pen that he's bragging about. Best wishes, Stuart Barker.
Well, yeah, but one.
So he doesn't want me to give you any because you already limit up on all your pens.
Well, do you think I want any of his Poxy Pilot pens? Eh?
What sort of pens?
Poxy Pilot pens.
I don't think you can say that, can you? In a family show.
Well, I think you can because I think if he's saying that don't give any of these to Porky, I can tell you something, man. Unless it's a cross or a Parker or a Waterman, I wouldn't be able to use it anyway because it simply wouldn't. It would give my skin a rash to use such cheap junk.
Well, I don't think these are cheap. £100 worth of pens. I'm very grateful.
There's about 80 pens there. With about £1 each.
And what I can't use, I'll give to my kids.
Oh, will you? Oh, I see. Yeah.
Why would I give you any?
Well, because I'm supposed to be a working partner, aren't I?
No, really.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sorry about that. But thank you very much, Stuart. That's a very nice thing that you've done, and I shall be very happily using. In fact, I may unpack one even as we speak to use on the show.
Good idea.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
What was that? Well, you've got something.
Well, what are you going to do with all your pens now, then? Why don't you take one out and start writing some? Why don't you write something intelligent for the first time in your life? Huh?
For the first time in my life? What, you mean like I used to write for the Sunday Times that you never wrote for?
No, rubbish. Now then, I suppose we must get around to talking about Monsieur Rooney, because he's saying I'm not finished. He's
sort of saying he might not be good enough.
He deserved to be dropped by Manchester United, but says he's not finished as a force for club and country.
He's also giving a bit of stick to Sam Allardyce, which is a bit unusual,
He's
isn't it, for
giving a
Rooney?
bit of stick to Sam Allardyce, yeah.
Did he not also give a bit of stick to Hodgson after the Euros? What sort of captain blames his boss? That would be my question.
Yeah, I don't.
I think he did. I think he said that there was a player revolt, and one of the reasons that Harry Kane stopped taking the corners was because Wayne Rooney decided it was a bad idea for Harry Kane to take the corners, and that he basically went against the wishes of his manager.
No, you're absolutely right.
So I see a pattern emerging here. Well, your golden boy is actually the leader of a sort of uprising within the team.
I don't think so.
So the idea that he's now going to do what Gareth Southgate tells him, I think, is ludicrous.
Yeah, well, as you quite rightly say, for £500,000, Gareth Southgate's got to assume the mantle of I am the boss and don't you forget it, you know what I mean? And I think that's what he's trying to do.
Right.
I think that's what he's trying to do.
Sladoth says this, what was the name of Parry's first pet? I'm sure the hackers would like to know now that they have his mother's maiden name.
Yeah.
You should be careful what you give away on the radio.
Oh, I totally agree. But I mean, it wasn't actually my mother's maiden name. It was the family name, if you see what I mean.
Name?
Yeah, my grandmother.
What do you mean?
My grandmother's
so it was your grandmother's
side of the family. Yeah,
your grandmother's married name.
That's right, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, so it must have been your mother's name.
No, it wasn't. It was my grandmother's single name.
Oh, so it was her maiden name.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, so her married name wasn't Barker.
No, definitely not.
What was it?
Oh, well, I can't tell you that because otherwise the hackers would... actually, it was Newton, because I was... sorry, yeah.
You don't have to give her name away, they say.
No, I was born Michael Allen Newton Parry.
Were you?
Yeah, because...
all they need now
is my mother's maiden name.
Is your family pet, the first school you went to.
Yeah, exactly,
and,
yeah, a bit harsh, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was Susie, wasn't it? Your family pet.
Yeah, the family dog was Susie. Everybody knows that, though, don't they? Eh? I don't know what you're laughing about.
Oh, dear. You better give all that money over to the nose specialist before he gets ripped out of your account by the hackers.
You could be right, yeah.
That's
definitely.
brilliant. Yeah. How about this from G. O'Hara? Have we got time? He says, that's the first time Porky's ever said that. Usually it's MG.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I'm looking at some of these headlines, right, and the one on Tyson Fury is just amazing. My coke binges, I've taken loads of it, who cares? Tyson Fury sensationally confessed, I've taken loads of cocaine. Shame world heavyweight champion admits he does not care about his drug and booze binges. I mean...
How can he say it's nobody's business?
Yeah.
He's the heavyweight champion of the world, right?
Well, yeah.
He's supposed to have some kind of responsibility, albeit, lots of people are saying, don't make fun of Tyson Fury, he's got mental health issues. Well, I'm sorry, he's acting like a very, very irresponsible man.
Of course he is.
And if he doesn't feel that he's got the mental capacity because of health issues to maintain the role of the sort of role model that he is as a heavyweight champion, he should just retire.
I totally agree.
And stop talking.
He says, what's it got to do with anything? It isn't a performance-enhancing drug. No, it's not. But when people take cocaine, their head goes.
Well, how can it not be a performance-enhancing drug?
I totally agree. And if you're standing in a boxing ring with a pair of boxing gloves on and you're the world heavyweight champion like he is, and you're facing somebody else, and your head's full of cocaine, your body's full of cocaine, you've lost your sense of reason and ration. Yeah. You could either kill yourself through overexertion, not realise you were overexerting and your heart could explode, or you could literally beat the other man to death because you've simply lost control of your faculties.
Yeah.
It's utterly ludicrous.
I know.
And a man's got to be wiped out of the whole boxing scene until he's got his head back together and he's physically able to sustain the presence needed for a heavyweight boxer.
Exactly right. I couldn't agree more. This is, of course, TalkSport. We are the two mics. Coming up next, we're going to talk about Bobcat Bob from America, who's come to Swansea.
I got you now, boy.
With Mark Donaldson. This is TalkSport. We are the two mics. Coming up a bit later on in the show is Ask Porky, of course. We've got a great many things to talk about. We've mentioned Tyson Fury. We've also mentioned Wayne Rooney. And, of course, Gareth Southgate taking over the first game. 125 grand he's getting for that, which, as some people are pointing out, it's a lot less than Wayne Rooney gets for playing for Man United. But we also want to talk about Darren Clark, and who better to talk to about the Ryder Cup and its fallout, Mr. Mark Donaldson from ESPN. Mark, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you both?
Yeah. Very well indeed, Mark. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Yes, Porky was complaining earlier that Darren Clark seems to have kind of got away with producing one of the worst Ryder Cup performances in the history of the Ryder Cup, and nobody seems to be being very critical of him. What's your take on it?
Yeah, there was a good article I read by a lad who writes for SportingLife.com called Ben Coley.
Oh, yeah.
And he basically he pointed out the deficiencies of Clark's captaincy. And unfortunately, I agreed with what he was saying, in that he went with friendship over form. Mm-hmm. It's easy to sit here, the three of us, and say, should have done that, shouldn't have played him, and should have played him. The bottom line is, I think even if he had played the right team, I think we probably still would have lost. But it's impossible to say because the momentum was kind of lost with that putt by Lee Westwood that he missed on the Saturday evening. But it's a difficult one, as someone pointed out. We just need to wait a couple of years in France, and Lee Westwood's going to be the captain, and Darren Clark will be his captain's pick, or one of them. And that was tongue firmly in cheek.
Yeah.
It depends on who you listen to and their experiences of Darren Clark. I wasn't there. We don't have the rights, ESPN, to the Ryder Cup. I was like everybody else. I watched it on television. But I might not have been working for ESPN. I was still a viewer. And I thought there were a few things that he got wrong. The Lee Westwood, Martin Keimer wasn't playing very well.
Yep.
I thought Cabrera Bello should have got another chance with Sergio Garcia. But it's easy, isn't it, after the event, in whichever sport, to sit there and think, oh, he should have done that instead of what he did.
Well, do you know what I thought, Mark? I thought the biggest problem was I couldn't see any separation between the rule of authority of the captain, Darren Clarke, and all the players below him. I couldn't see any difference at all. If you...
But it's like you said, he was more friendly than he was a leader, wasn't he?
Yeah, and if you saw all the guys in a room together with a glass of wine in their hand, before the start of the competition, you would not have been able to pick out who the leader of that group was.
Yeah, and we weren't behind the scenes, Porky, so we don't know what happened. I get what you're saying as well.
But he let the players decide who was teeing off first, didn't he, for example?
He did,
they were tossing coins on the first hole.
That's right.
And you would otherwise think... that's surely a decision that he makes.
Exactly.
That was the one that got me when he was asked, or when it was pointed out by one of the players in the post-round press conference, or we tossed a coin to decide who went first. Look, I think there were things that happened that forced his hand. I think the comments made by Danny Willett's brother certainly affected things. However, as was pointed out in the article that I read, the captaincy and him going to Danny Willett on the course immediately and telling him what had happened, rather than waiting until the end of the practice round to inform him, and then Danny Willett apologising to the US team and to Davis Love for something that his brother hadn't even had a go at. It wasn't Davis Love and the players that he was having a go at. And look, we don't know, but apparently in practice, Danny Willett was hitting it left, right, and everywhere but where he should have been. Again, we don't know. So that was something that was kind of taken out of his hands as well. But the whole going to Danny Willett on the Thursday and telling him, or whenever it was, and telling him what had happened.
Yep.
I don't care who you are. If it's the three of us or Danny Willett, your head's going to be up your backside.
Yeah.
Exactly right, which was, and again, the wrong decision was made. And then to allow Danny to then sort of make a bit of an idiot of himself afterwards and say, actually my brother was right, which is really going to skew his chances of doing anything further in America, isn't it?
It certainly is.
It's going to make it hard, isn't it? I mean, he's the Masters champion. I mean, Rory McIlroy over here is treated like some sort of god, and deservedly so as well, because he plays the game well. And look, that tweet, I believe, was sent in the early hours, and obviously it was fueled by probably some alcohol.
About 2 o'clock in the morning.
And then there was the justification. Yeah, you can't have your cake and eat it. You can't say that it was a poor article and then apologise for it, and then after you've lost heavily in a couple of matches that he played, said, oh, maybe my brother was right.
Yeah.
Look, the one thing, and this is where I think there's a dichotomy, gents, and it'll be interesting to get your take on it as well, is that, the sports over here, and I'm sitting watching NBA, it's pre-season, the hockey as well, we've got the NFL, and I can pretty much go to most NFL games wearing whatever jersey I want. Obviously, I'm a Dolphins fan, and I don't mind going to see matches wearing a Dolphins jersey if my team's not playing, because I want to go and I want to be part of it as well. I can do that. I couldn't wear an Arsenal jersey to a Spurs game when Arsenal weren't playing. And over here, there's more kind of, I'm not saying friendliness, but there's more tolerance as well, normally. But then you get the idiots at the Ryder Cup that rears their ugly head. And you've got the gates opening at 8 o'clock in the morning for Sunday. And you've got guys that are lining up at the beer tent ahead of that. So what makes these people become completely different animals, apart from alcohol, when they go to a sporting event?
Well, I mean, I think, to be fair, it was all started at the War on the Shore, wasn't it? That was when suddenly it became more than just a golf tournament watched by proper golf fans. And it became something that was kind of suddenly jingoistic. And it was Europe against the USA, and it was just mad. And it's never really lost that, unfortunately. I think it ruins it a bit.
And what you got as well on the Sunday morning prior to the first singles match going out, the first of the 12, there was a warning on the PA and also with the man with the microphone saying, look, behave yourself, don't shout out. There were people who were shouting out during Westwood's putting stroke and the follow-through and everything like that. It's very difficult. Where do we go from here? I mean, you've got the Dunhill links at Carnoustie, Kingsbarns and St Andrews this week. OK, there's not going to be anywhere near as much publicity on it or as many fans in attendance as well.
It's not so easy standing on the links at Kingsbarns in the cold weather and getting worked up either.
Of course. I mean, exactly. Your lips have kind of shriveled up and gone, and that's in the summer. Yeah. But so we're not comparing and contrasting here. We're not comparing two similar things as well. But the issue that you have is that I do think that the British golf fan is more knowledgeable. I'm not saying everybody's perfect, because of course every village has got its idiot. But what do we do in 4 years' time, after France in a couple of years' time, when they're back there? It's the jingoism and it's the patriotism as well. But how do we ensure that they behave better?
Yes, well, that's a $64,000 question. You know, how do you stop football fans from fighting when most of it has kind of disappeared off, but there is still a minority of people that do it?
Indeed.
Without trying to solve the world's problems, let's talk instead about Bobcat Bob, as he's becoming known here. Mr. Parry thinks he sounds and looks a bit like Boss Hogg from the Dukes of Hazzard.
I got you now, boy.
And there seems to be some doubt as to whether an American having no experience of the Premier League can be a success at Swansea. I'm sure you, in your capacity as a far more erudite and educated commentator, will know far more about Bobcat Bob than Mr. Parry.
Let's go back to Francesco Guidolin when he was appointed at Swansea. Was there the same kind of, what's going on here? This is an Italian that not many people have heard of, and he's getting the Swansea job, and he's never coached in England before. I commentated on many of his matches at Udinese, and he did a fine job. And he will get less time, Bob Bradley, as Francesco Guidolin did, than some other people will. The bottom line is, this world is about who you know. And the bottom line is that Swansea have got American owners that know Bob Bradley.
Exactly.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Is whichever workplace you're in, if you get on with the boss, you're more likely to get further up in that establishment than you are if you've got previous with the boss and he's like, him, okay, right. You're not getting anything from me. And that's what it's like here at Swansea.
Yeah, well, that gets you in, but it doesn't get you to stay.
No, it doesn't get you to stay. And it's a ludicrous appointment, Mark, because this guy's track record, you know who he's managing? He's managing the team that was 5th in the French second division. Now, the French football, in terms of European leagues, is number 6 or 7.
People did point out yesterday that
it's below Portugal.
But Le Havre's academy has produced some incredibly good players.
Maybe it has. But what I'm saying is, you go from the 5th team in the second division of French football to the Premier League, the elite division in the whole of Europe, and you're expected to,
they are about 5th bottom, though, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, but they're still in the Premier League in England, which is recognised as the elite division in the whole of Europe, and you're expected to suddenly turn into, Pep Guardiola. It's ludicrous.
Well, we've got the same issue as well when Ralph Rangnick was linked with the England job, and people are saying, wait a minute, the director of football at RB Leipzig.
Ludicrous.
So they're unbeaten, by the way, in the Bundesliga. But I'll go back to a topic that I've had a conversation with you two before. It's about an education, and out with the shores of many people is like, well, if it's not happening here, then it doesn't exist. Now, it's a strange appointment. I get that. And he will not get as much time as other people might get because he doesn't have that name. But you can't just say, he's coming from Le Havre. This is a guy who was in charge of the United States for 5 years at the World Cup in 2010. Yeah. He was also in charge of Egypt as well. I suppose you might call him a bit of a journeyman coach as well, and for that he might not get the time that other people would maybe give him. But remember who his bosses are going to be. You're right. That's got him in. It might also get him a bit more time as far as the owners are concerned. But you know what it's like, boys. When it comes to someone not happy, whether they're fans or whatever, and they vote with their feet, he's not got much time, and I don't believe.
But Mark, you work in America.
That hard.
You work in America, and you know the culture of American people, the way they think, and that's why Bob was reasonably successful as the coach of the American national team, because they have a philosophy, they have a thought pattern, they have a way of life.
But as I said to you, don't forget.
Yeah, you can't transfer that. You can't transfer that to Wales.
Well, you might be able to.
You can't.
The US team did a lot better than the England team.
I've said that. I've said that's why it worked, because they're a collective. They were all Americans. They all fought together. He's one of us and all that kind of stuff.
It didn't work for England, does it?
No, you're losing the point. I'm saying you can't transfer what he had with the American national team to Wales. It just simply won't work.
Well, I don't know about that.
I think. sorry, lads. I just want to ask Mike something.
Yeah.
Ryan Giggs was mentioned as well.
Yes.
Mr. Parry,
right.
Which one would you rather have? Would you have a guy who's achieved as a football coach, who will be a gamble, of course, or would you rather have Ryan Giggs starting off at a Premier League job? He could be the best coach in the world, but you have no idea. Which one would you rather have if you were a Swansea fan?
Neither, because I'd have appointed Steve Bruce. Because if you want Premier League survival, if you want to give yourself the best possible chance of staying in the Premier League in the position you're in, that Swansea are in, I'd have gone and got Steve Bruce and said, I'll give you a contract at the end of the season. And he would have bit your arm off and he would have saved you.
But that would have been a very boring choice,
It might have been a boring choice, but it would have saved Swansea from going down. Because under Barb, Swansea are going down.
I don't think they are. I think you'll be a revelation. I think one.
Rubbish!
Because Mark knows
What's a load of nonsense?
Mark knows this. That it's not just about managing the
You've
team.
been visiting old Tyson's pad, have you?
Tyson's dealer. No, I haven't. No, thank you very much for asking.
Yeah.
No, but no. The thing is, I think Mark that he will bring a certain discipline to the Premier League. He will bring a certain panache,
locker room discipline,
a certain style, yes, a certain way of dealing with the media. Yeah. And he's been in some pretty high level jobs, and he will have worked at that sort of level. Brian Giggs hasn't done any of that, really. I mean, Ryan Giggs and even Steve Bruce, who has done it, but not very well.
Is he going to bring in a couch for a psychology?
Well, he might call it a couch.
I hope, Mr. Parry, there's no xenophobia here.
No xenophobia.
No.
I mean,
a couple
Parry,
of weeks ago, and this time it's Mr. Bradley.
Well, I mean, he complains when managers come in who can't speak very good English. This guy speaks perfect English and still doesn't like him. So what can I say? Yeah. Mark, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Mark Donaldson there from ESPN giving us his view on Bobcat Bob and how well he's going to do.
Got you now, boy.
Yeah, just to continue Paul's point about the Darby O'Gill. Yeah. Apparently it was Darby O'Gill and the Little People, which was a Disney film in the late 50s, starring Sean Connery. And Paul says it was an inspired piece of casting. Sean Connery was given the title role, as it was thought with a name like that, he just had to be Irish.
Sorry, what's all this about?
Well, do you remember when your accent earlier was described by somebody from Belfast who said it doesn't sound anything like Darren Clark, it sounds like somebody called Darby O'Gill.
Oh, I didn't know Darby O'Gill was.
Well, I presume that's the character Sean Connery plays in this movie. Maybe we should try and find a bit of...
What's it called, the movie?
It's called Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
What's it about, leprechauns?
I don't know what it's about.
Well, it doesn't say. It sounds like a load of nonsense.
It's a Disney film from the late
50s. Yeah, if we had to deal with every piece of nonsense that comes through the machines in our studio every time we go to air, we'd never stop talking about them.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
Here's one from Jeff who says, you mean Steve Bruce who has taken teams down? Porky the Plank strikes again. Give Barb a chance.
Yeah, well, no, I'm sorry. I think Steve Bruce would have been fine. I see, by the way, our very dear friend, old Neil...
Neil?
Yeah?
Neil Warnock.
Neil Warnock.
Yeah, he's landed another job in Cardiff.
Well, I'm not sure he's landed it yet, but he's the favourite to get it, isn't he?
Oh, I thought he had got it.
Has he been confirmed?
I think so.
Has he?
Yeah, I think so.
That's amazing. That man pops up everywhere.
Well, he did a great job at Rotherham,
I was about to say, everywhere he goes, he does a great job. Man's got some sort of secret
so I'm
potion.
told he's expected to take charge. So when they say that usually means it's done deal.
It does, yeah. Now, this is on the Southgate thing, right? This is even worse than I thought, because I'm looking at the details of it, OK?
What's even worse than you thought?
About his remuneration, right? It's even worse than I thought, right? It says Gareth Southgate will earn £500,000 for leading England over the next 2 months.
Yes.
And then, this is the killer punch, which I find almost impossible to accept, the equivalent of his annual salary as England under-21 head coach.
That's what I told you at the start of the show. He's getting $500,000, right, for 4 games, and normally that's what he gets for a whole year. Isn't that what it says?
No.
Yes, that's what it says.
Oh, I see. Sorry, I thought it meant that because it's over 2 months, he was getting £3 million a year. He's getting £3 million a year equivalent.
No. Well, he is getting £3 million a year equivalent for the 2 months.
I see.
But what it says is
I understand
that normally his annual salary is $500,000.
It's $500,000, and he's getting that over 2 months for leading the England team.
And presumably he's still getting the $500,000 as well.
Yeah, exactly.
As an annual salary.
Yes, that's right.
So this is like a sort of add-on bonus.
It's a bonus of £500,000.
So this year he makes £1 million.
Southgate will manage the senior team for 4 matches after the departure of Sam Allardyce, and the Football Association shown its willingness to upgrade Southgate's contract as he prepares England for matches against Malta, Slovenia, Scotland and Spain. Finer details of Southgate's contract have yet to be finalised, but it's thought the FA is willing to pay him Allardyce's $3 million a year salary on a pro-rata basis.
Yeah.
Well, you see, that is ridiculous.
Well, of course it is.
It's utterly ridiculous.
But this is why I said to you, has the FA learned nothing from not just the last couple of weeks, but the last few years?
Utterly ridiculous. And by the way, scanning through all the images that were taken today at St George's Park, Am I right, or am I right in saying that it looks to me like Gareth Southgate is trying to imitate the body language and style of Pep Guardiola?
I think so. Well, I said he's definitely slimmed down a bit.
Yeah.
He's got the beard thing going on, which is a bit trendy. He's got a quite short haircut. Yeah, well,
but this style of standing, either with your hands in your pockets, leaning back, or kicking a ball with your hands folded behind your back.
Yes.
I mean, that's so... I'm not joking. This guy's been practising in the mirror to look like a more influential coach, in my view.
Maybe that's what he's perceived was what he did wrong the last time around, when he didn't really look the part. Because you know what it's like. I mean, half the time you have to look the part in these jobs.
Yep.
If you look like Pep Guardiola, you look like you know what you're doing. If you look like Jose Mourinho, you look like you know what you're doing.
Sure,
Guidolin never really looked like he knew what he was doing.
No, he didn't. No, I totally agree. Guidolin always looked mystified.
And so Solskjaer, for example, when he came to manage Cardiff.
Yeah, he looked mystified.
He didn't really look like he knew what he was doing. Ryan Giggs doesn't look the part on the touchline.
No, I agree. He looks a bit mystified as well. Guidolin, to me, didn't even seem to know which country he was in. He was mystified. His head spinning. Where am I? What am I doing here? And I suppose you could say, well, I've got a grudge against him because the first game that he took in charge of Swansea was against Everton at Goodison.
Yes.
And they beat us 2-1.
Oh, well.
And that was...
and that was the last game he won.
Was that right?
Yeah, I think so.
And that was a terrible blow.
Yeah, absolutely right. Now, how about this from Tinker? He says, Porky's bank account is currently being emptied by someone in New York.
Probably.
Cue series of texts and exit the studio, Porky.
Indeed, yeah.
Because that's what you had to do that last time.
That's right, absolutely.
Matty says this, are you surprised with how big Porky's nose is with the amount of time he tells lies?
It's a bit harsh, isn't it? Yeah.
Scott says, Porky cracks me up. Who wrote that? Brackets Nutcracker music.
Yes.
He is such a cultured plank.
Well, thank you very much indeed, but that's a contradiction in terms, isn't it? You can be cultured or you can be a plank.
Yeah, you can't be both.
A cultured plank.
Lord Rallo says, I'm an American and Porky's Bobcat Bob impersonation is gold. I hope old Bobcat does well so we can continue to hear it.
Thank you, absolutely. Listen, I've come across some more information as the night wears on.
Oh, yeah.
And that is that the world's most striking ever female tennis player, Maria Sharapova.
That's right.
Has now had her ban reduced.
She has had it reduced, but not by much, though. 15 months or something instead of 2 years, is that right?
She's had it reduced by 9 months, I think. Yeah, so 15 instead of 24. Yeah, that's reduced by 9.
That's what I just said.
Well, that's quite a lot.
What's 58 out of 100 as a percentage?
No, it's not. It's 9 out of 24.
Yeah, well, 9 out of 24. You just said it's been reduced by 9, so it's 15. That's what I said.
Yes, but 9 out of 24 as a percentage is nearly 10. It's nearly, hang on.
10?
No, hang on, it's nearly 1/3. It's nearly 1/3, because 3 nines is 27.
So nearly 1/3 of her band's been removed.
30% of it's been removed.
There you go.
That's good.
Well, that would be 27, though, wouldn't it?
What?
That would be 27. 3 nines are 27.
Yes, I know.
So it's not quite a third.
It's 30%. I've said it's below a third. It's 30%.
Yeah.
I've just worked it out in my head.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, as long as we've got that sorted out.
But
so she might be able to play in time for the French.
Yeah. But
although people are saying that the Grand Slams may shun her.
Well, it's exactly what I was about to say to you. You see, you've jumped the gun there.
Sorry,
I was about to say that as information is pouring into my headphones.
Yeah. I have read all this,
Hang on, and on my screen, I'm picking up, the real information. They're saying that, hang on, she's still got a serious doping conviction against her name, and therefore her ranking points are null and void to enter the major tournaments, which means...
Oh, so she can't actually qualify, in other words?
She's got to go through the qualifying rounds. That's what they're saying.
Because she's unlikely to receive a wild card invitation.
Exactly.
Although you say that, but I wouldn't be surprised if, for example, money talks in these matters. And because, if you're running a tournament, even if it is one of the big majors, and it's, either Wimbledon or it's the French Open or even the Australian Open, I she won't be eligible for that, they will want her there, won't they?
Well, of course they will. Why do you think every golf tournament in the world wants Tiger there, whether he's playing or not?
Yeah.
Just turn up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, of course, he's box office, isn't he?
Yeah.
And Maria Sharapova is undoubtedly what I would call box office.
So what has she learned from this particular experience, apart from the fact that meldonium is now a banned substance?
Well, what she's learnt is to be a lot more careful about what she ingests into her own body and maybe to be a lot more frank with the authorities and with people around her about what she's doing.
Okay.
That's what I'd say.
Now, how about this from Brendan?
It's a learning curve, life. Life is a learning curve.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is I don't think she's lost any of her millions, has she, in the intervening period?
I think she did have some...
Did somebody drop her as a sponsor?
Yes, I think she had some sponsorship issues, yes,
all right.
definitely. Yeah.
I remember Porky giving you grief and scorn when Leicester appointed Ranieri, MG, saying it was a horrendous decision. Yeah, I remember that as well. You said Ranieri would be a terrible disaster.
Well, hang on,
Leicester.
I wasn't the only one. Half the world said that.
No, that doesn't matter, but
Henry
that's what
Winter,
you said.
the football editor of the Times, said exactly the same.
Well, they were all wrong.
So did Neil Ashton of The Sun.
I didn't. I said he would be great. I said he'd be a great appointment.
Anyway,
and so it proved to be. Here's one from Becky, who says, American sports mentality is there must be a winner. Should translate well in success-driven Premier League.
Yeah, well, yes and no. The problem is Americans still don't properly understand football. They keep calling it soccer. It's called soccer. Get you there, boy. Get your soccer boots on.
Have you seen that Twitter account, American Soccer Guy, which is brilliant?
No.
You know, he just puts out tweets about, but getting everything wrong in sort of English football terms. But, I think this could be the beginning. This could be the beginning of something, though.
Okay, you say so.
Well, mark it down. Yeah. In fact, I'll take one of my new pens out and mark it down myself.
Yeah, go on.
This was the day that I said Bobcat Bob would keep Swansea up.
Oh, no, this is the beginning of Swansea's decline into the Championship. And this time next year, they could very well be Aston Villa, who, of course, are in a terrible mess now.
What's the latest on Steve Sherwood there, by the way?
Well, he's made a bid to go back and do the job under new owners, because, of course, last time he did it was under Andy Lerner, and he makes the point that, Mr. Lerner was so intent on selling the club and not withholding, but being careful about funds, that he didn't get a fair crack at it.
No, exactly right.
Yeah.
Now, we've got lots more to do. Coming up, we're going to be talking about body doubles and doppelgangers, because apparently everybody somewhere in the world has one.
My grandfather Podge told me there were three things the little people were mad after. Dancing, whiskey, and hunting.
Begorra, he wasn't far wrong.
Huh? Then I'll give you the fox chase.
Ah, the fox chase.
First, you'll hear the gathering of the huntsmen and the baying of the hounds.
Grand.
Away we go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's great, that, isn't it?
What is that from?
Well, that's from the movie, the Sean Connery movie, yeah.
Well,
Josh has found it.
Load of
What's the mean, a load of rubbish? Begorra, they actually said. Begorra.
Sounds like some, very... So, what's the word I'm looking for? Very typical sort of Irish drivel.
What do you mean?
Well,
you can't say that.
No, Ireland's a great country with a great culture and all that, but the way
Irish
people...
from the 1950s,
The way Irish people are portrayed in some of these ridiculous films, the little people, the leprechauns, the little people, the shillelaghs, they go around waving shillelaghs around, the little people do. It's all rubbish.
Well, I mean, maybe we should try and rent it and have a look at it.
Listen, talking about little people and all that. You see, I was watching some of the news programmes today, keep in touch with what's going on around the world.
Oh, yeah. And there's not a lot going on at the moment.
Well, no, you say that, but I see that in Greece, pensioners decided to start protesting because, their pensions are whittling away to nothing.
I mean, they can't take money out of the bank. They can't get their pensions.
So they all got together and decided to have a bit of a protest. So police moved in with tear gas. So I fired tear gas bullets and bombs at them.
These old sort of white-haired, frail pensioners.
Oh, it was terrible.
That's shocking, that.
It was pathetic.
Why are you laughing about it?
Well, many of them were, hobbling around with their walking sticks and all that. Next minute, bang! They're rolling around, coughing and spluttering. I mean, sure, some of them must have died, unfortunately.
Well, hopefully not.
The cops wading in with batons and all this kind of stuff.
It's a bit over the top, though, isn't it?
It's a bit over the top.
You think they'd be able to deal with it in a slightly better way?
Well,
but people are very angry in Greece.
They sprayed them with water.
It's all gone a bit quiet there, hasn't it? As far as Did you see, by the way, this woman Diane James has quit her job as leader of UKIP after 18 days?
Well, I mean, do you know what? It's pathetic. I didn't know her name. I didn't know who she was. I knew that they'd appointed some new person 18 days ago.
Yeah.
Because the most poignant image was of Nigel Farage trying to kiss the woman who was the new boss.
Yeah, there's the picture there. And
she turned her head,
shrinking away from it.
That's right. Yeah, and it all looked so gruesome and all that. But anyway, she's now quit. So who cares? To be honest, that's a problem, isn't it?
Well, I mean, the trouble is, it just goes to show that politics in this country has sort of reached a dead end. Really, isn't it?
Yes, it does. Yeah,
because now they don't know who to put in charge of UKIP, but nobody even knows if UKIP are a force to be reckoned with anymore anyway.
I totally agree.
What's the point of it all?
I totally agree. Now listen, I'll tell you what I want to talk to you about. Now you went to university, obviously, for a short period of time.
Obviously, yeah, for 2 years actually.
2 years, that's right. What did you think of your Freshers' Week?
Freshers' Week, I didn't particularly enjoy the first one, but because I was a fresher myself, it was quite a useful exercise, if you like.
Yeah.
But I quite enjoyed the second one.
What do you
because
mean?
The second one, I was then kind of more involved in the student union.
What, do you have one at the start of every year?
Yeah, of course you do.
Oh, I thought it was just your first year.
Yeah, but there's one every year.
There's one every year, right, okay.
Well, for people who are first years.
Right, okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, Freshers' Week is every year.
Yeah, but you're not supposed to join in if you're second and third year.
Well, no, but I mean, there's always things to do. Like, for example, if you were involved in the entertainment side of things, you'd be putting on shows. If you were involved in the newspaper, which I was, you were involved in putting out a special newspaper.
Okay.
And if you were involved in the student union, you were more involved in sort of helping. What do you mean, okay?
Yeah, you're telling me, and I'm saying thank you for the
You're saying
information.
OK in the middle of the statement, though, so you haven't heard yet what I've finished about to say.
Well, no, because you keep telling me the same thing over and over again.
No, because I was involved in setting up Freshers Week the second year. So actually, that was a more fulfilling experience.
I see, interesting.
If you like.
Well, anyway,
showing people round.
The reason I mention this is because we've already had a discussion on this programme a few weeks ago about the fact that young people are drinking less than ever. So, in our day, it was 8 or 10 pints on a Friday night, no problem.
That's not always the image that I see around the country.
Well, I think we're talking about the more intelligentsia type of youngster, you know what I mean?
Right. Well, you wouldn't have classed yourself as that, would you?
Yes, I would, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Intelligentsia?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Cool, blimey.
But anyway, the reason I raise this is because universities are reporting back now, because, of course, I think it is Fresher Week, isn't it, this week, or was it last week?
Well, it's usually sort of the back end of September, isn't it?
Yeah, back end of September, that many students are turning away from it. It says here, this is a report from one of my higher education journals, some offer fancy dress pub crawls with outrageous themes, others stage bizarre initiation ceremonies for obscure student societies, all involve copious amounts of alcohol. But student unions are reporting, after Freshers' Week last week, searching for the next left field idea for Freshers' Week activities, were offered an unusual proposal yesterday. How about some lectures instead of pub crawls?
Lectures, yeah, well, that's not a bad idea. I mean, that is why they're there. Well, I think as well, as we've said before, the kind of the view of higher education for a lot of people now is because it's quite expensive and they're going to end up getting into debt in order to go there. Yeah. They feel that they probably have to actually go and learn something.
And start working from the start.
Whereas you and I didn't really have that view.
That's right. We didn't, definitely. I spent all my money, because I got a grant, I spent all my grant money in the first 4 weeks of the first term on drink and chasing women, all this kind of stuff.
Quite.
Now, headmasters from leading private schools declared that Freshers' Week revelry goes on for too long and have called for universities to start lectures sooner after undergraduates first arrive. Teenagers looking forward to university as a chance to savour freedom from over-strict headmasters as well as from overprotective parents may not be in the majority any longer.
Yes.
Many freshers, according to research, agree with their head teachers. They would like a little more work and a little less play when they arrive at their higher education college.
Yes. Well, I mean, nobody's forcing you into, behaving like an idiot, being sick on the pavement outside the local pub and making you go on a pub crawl. I mean, show a bit of discipline and backbone and just say, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, you're not going to believe what I'm going to quote you now.
Go on.
This is from the Higher Education Journal. Higher Education Journal. And this all came from a meeting of what's called the Headmasters and Headmistress Conference, right?
Yes.
Who represent the heads of 280 independent schools, the best in the country, OK?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to quote you a chap who has put this view forward. You are going to be astonished.
Go on, then.
Chris Ramsey,
right,
headmaster of...
Not the King's School, Chester.
Yes. How about that?
Do you know him?
No.
Okay.
But I'll get to know him now.
So he wasn't there when you were around?
Well, of course he wasn't.
Well, he might have been a junior
35 years ago.
teacher or something.
Chris Ramsey, headmaster of the King's School in Chester, said that a minority of new students wanted a more structured initiation to higher education and that universities should not leave this all to student unions. In some institutions, the week had extended to Freshers' Fortnight.
Right.
And this was going on for far too long.
Well, what's it got to do with him?
Well, he said...
he's obviously a bit like you, sticks his nose into places where he's not wanted.
No, a lot of his gifted pupils go to top universities.
Really?
Peter Hamilton, headmaster of the Haberdasher Asks Boys School in Hertfordshire.
I know that one.
It's a very famous
school.
It is, yeah. It's a very, very good school.
Yeah, it's not far from sort of Edgware, around that sort of area.
That's right,
Mill Hill, around there.
That's right. Said that many students were anxious about going from a highly structured school day, where they knew everything was in line, to the loosely disciplined university.
Well, I mean, it was a very exciting time, I have to say, going away to university, to move out of your parents' home for the first time at the age of 18.
That's right.
It was quite a big deal.
I totally agree. I'll tell you what I think is a complete waste of time on that, and I've got experience of seeing people for whom it hasn't worked, is this goddamn ridiculous gap year. I just cannot understand
going on about that.
I cannot understand it. So you've worked hard.
Surely it's down to the individual.
Of course it's down to the individual, but I think the culture of gap year became something that was peer pressure to students, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So, you and your mate have just finished, you've got a couple of good degrees, 2-1 or something like that.
Yeah.
And my view would always be, I want to go straight into work. Now, if my mate said, oh, no, come on, we'll never get the chance again, let's go to Australia for a year.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, then you go. But when you come back, you are more than a year behind your contemporaries who've gone into it. You're about 3 years behind.
But again, does that not depend on what you're going to go into and eventually do? Because there are some places where they might see that as a sort of, a self-starting motivational thing to do.
It's a load of rubbish.
You would not have that view because you don't think anybody should even take holidays.
No.
I mean, you don't think people should stop working for any reason at all.
No, it's not that. It's just that, honestly, this adenine view that...
Adenine?
Yeah, adenine.
You mean adenine?
Yeah, adenine view that that people who...
What do you mean anodyne?
Anodyne, that's exactly what I mean.
What's anodyne?
I don't know. Yeah.
That's got a toothpaste.
No, just shut up. I had my nose done and my thinking pattern's a bit skewed because I've got a splitting headache.
You are indeed the Daniela Westbrook of Talk Sport.
Splitting headache. Now, what I'm saying is this view, the anodyne view, that to go off backpacking around the world builds character and gives you experience of life and educates you
I think it does.
in the University of Life.
I think it does.
Is rubbish.
It's not rubbish. I think travel
nonsense.
definitely broadens the mind. I mean, that's why I take my kids abroad as often as I can.
It's idleness.
It's not idleness.
It is. It's idleness. Get into a job.
I mean, I
money.
would much rather employ somebody who had done something a little bit more adventurous than the norm, rather than someone who'd just gone through a little series of boxes and gone from primary school to secondary school to university to a job. Well, I'd much rather somebody who had actually, done something interesting.
I'd much rather employ somebody who said, in my last 3 school holidays, I didn't go backpacking around the world or anything like that. I wanted to be a journalist, so I worked at a weekly newspaper 1 year, I worked at a radio station the next year, and I was very, very lucky to be taken on by a TV station as a runner making the tea in the 3rd year. I'd say, right, you're the sort of person I need, you get in here now.
Well, that depends what you're looking for, though, doesn't it?
Well, you're looking for somebody who's got aspirations to join the business as soon as possible and who is showing
What if you want somebody,
commitment.
for example, who speaks Cantonese, and the fact that they spent a year abroad in China actually working on their language skills would be the person, if you wanted to hire them for that purpose,
I totally
that would
agree.
be the person you'd hire.
I totally agree.
Not the person that worked, as a runner at a TV station.
I totally agree, but if I was running Talk Sport, there's no call here for anybody speaking Cantonese.
Yes, there is actually, because we have a Cantonese commentary which goes out every single week on Premier League weekends.
Yes, we do.
So that's the person you'd want.
And we have Cantonese-speaking people who look after that. We don't have a vacancy for a Cantonese-speaking person.
How do you know that?
I know for sure, because we've got people doing it.
You've trawled through the Cantonese vacancy section of Talk Sport recently?
Absolutely.
Have you?
Absolutely.
Right.
And
what about Spanish? We've got a Spanish service. We've got a Vietnamese service.
We have,
We've got a Nigerian service.
And all those vacancies and those jobs are full.
We've got transmitters all over the world.
Yeah, but I mean, what a ridiculous supposition to say,
you're talking cobblers.
Some young kid should go off and spend a year in China so that when he comes back to speak Cantonese, in 15 years' time, when we've got a vacancy in the Cantonese department, he can have the vacancy. What do you do for the 15 years between now and then? Go and flip hamburgers. Huh? Yeah, that's your view, isn't it?
You're pathetic.
No, you're pathetic.
Are pathetic.
You're pathetic.
How about this from Peter?
For trying to justify your dopey
I'm just saying that
arguments.
If the world was full of one-dimensional characters, like you suggest it should be, we would be in a very, very bad place.
No, we wouldn't.
Peter says this, I'm a Villa fan. We don't want Steve Sherwood back. He's a lot like Porky, stumble-bum windbag with no real tactical knowledge.
Oh, my God.
It's a bit harsh.
And now I know it's 'cause you're part of me. Wasn't my choice, it was meant to be. We were connected even when apart. We got together, now the river to stop. Friends united, signing in.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. We are not identical, however, and we are not, in fact, doppelgangers of each other. But we are going to talk about doppelgangers now, because they've done a new study in the University of Adelaide, down in Australia, in which they have said and talked about the likelihood that there are doppelgangers of everybody around in the world.
Sure.
And people have always said, haven't they, since the day you were born, there is somebody out there who looks exactly like you somewhere in the world.
And they've always said that there's somebody out there who's going to be your partner in life, your soulmate and all that.
Well, that wouldn't be
into
a
them
doppelganger,
eventually.
would it?
Well, in the sense that it could be doppelganger by personality, if not by looks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk to somebody who knows a bit more about this than we do. It is Assistant Professor Michael Sheehan from the Neurobiology and Behaviour Department of Cornell University. Michael, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Hi, and thanks for having me.
Not at all. Now, this is a fascinating thing for me, anyway, and I'm not sure about my broadcasting colleague, Mr. Parry here. But I mean, is it? I mean, I know that the likelihood that they've worked out is something like 1 in 135 chance that there is a single pair of doppelgangers, right? But it's something that is very difficult to explain, and perhaps you could explain it to us.
Well, I mean, I think in some ways it's actually sort of surprising that we have so few doppelgangers, right? If you look around at other species you see on a daily basis, they all look so incredibly similar, and people are also amazingly different. And so in some sense, it's kind of surprising in and of itself that we don't all look more alike. But, given that there is a limited amount of diversity within humanity, if you shuffle that deck of cards enough times, you're going to be dealt the same hand. And so given that, there's only so many genes affecting the face and only so many ways that those can be arranged, even if two people are, somewhat distantly related, they may end up sort of by chance, of course, having a very similar complement. And, people that we see as being doppelgangers aren't, necessarily really identical at all those different genetic loci, of course, but they're just pretty darn similar. And, I think if you think to individuals that you yourself have been thought of as being a doppelganger with, people who probably only casually know you are more likely to mistake you with someone you don't really, look a little bit like, but not perfectly spot on for. And so, there's some erroneous perception that's involved with doppelgangerism, to be sure.
Well, Prof, I totally agree with you. I mean, what are there, 5 billion people in the world? Isn't it amazing that more of us don't look the same? And is it not true to say that if we go right back to the origins of humanity, that we probably...
The cavemen.
Sorry?
Cavemen.
Yeah, go back to the Stone Age or something like that. We probably all came from a tribe of about 200 people, didn't we? So isn't it a bit surprising that actually we're not all the same? We look at sheep and we say every sheep looks the same. It's got the same sort of face. Does the sheep look at a human and say all humans have got the same sort of face? Is that how close we are, looking-wise, to each other?
Yeah, actually, so people have actually asked whether other species can readily tell apart humans, and they can. Mm-hmm. People have done this both with domesticated animals that regularly interact with humans, like sheep, actually. But they've also looked at things like birds that live in people's gardens and, just kind of casually are interacting with humans. They've actually been able to show that some birds pay attention to particular people and know, who they are paying attention to human facial diversity in a way that, not that we couldn't learn a particular identity of a squirrel or, whatever it is that you see running around. But, it'd be a lot harder to do, right? And I think, there are certainly other species also look, different to themselves, and they're probably better at picking out individuals than we are. But, humans are objectively very diverse as well.
And as you were saying earlier, Michael, about the sort of difference in genetic makeup, I mean, presumably there is a finite number of genetic sort of mixes, if you like, that people can come from. Is that where the sort of the likelihood or the unlikelihood of two identical genetic makeups happening comes from?
Yeah, I mean, in essence, yes. I mean, it's not the case that people who we think of as being doppelgangers actually are identical at, appearance, genes, all the way through and through, but they probably have a lot more similarity than you would expect them to, given that they aren't necessarily, brother or sister or something like that.
And is that just sort of by chance happening then?
Yeah, I mean, it is just by chance. If there's someone else, who lives 3 towns over who happens to look like you, but isn't a relative, then that's just kind of by chance. There's only so much diversity going around. And so some of my own research has shown that actually the diversity that we see in faces has been selected to be maintained as actually diverse, so that we are actually under selection to be unique and individual. But what that means, in effect, is there's the same variants have been floating around in the population for a long time. So there's only so much diversity to go around. And some of that actually goes back way before the time of cavemen that you were mentioning before. So we actually looked to ask whether the genes that make us look different in our faces today, how old are some of those? And they actually go back prior to our split with things like Neanderthal. So they actually sort of predate humanity per se. Yeah, and there's a sort of a limited diversity that's been kicking around for a while that keeps getting reshuffled.
Okay, is it a natural human instinct, Professor, to want to look like somebody who is like George Clooney? I mean, I've never understood it. I'm very happy with the face I was dealt, by God or whoever created me. And
what do you think it was?
Sorry?
What, do you mean God or whoever?
Well, yeah, exactly. And I've never understood this mad desire to go around having plastic surgery to look like somebody else. What is it inside human beings that make them want to look like somebody else just because they think other person is more attractive to other humans?
Yeah, I myself will not claim to understand that aspect of human nature either. I mean, I think plastic surgery is pretty extreme, and it's not something that most people are doing. But there are certainly at any given point in time, the cultural preferences for given facial types or certain body types even change. So one decade it might be your George Clooney's who are particularly, attractive, and at some other point in time, Marlon Brando or something, right? At various points. So, who is the it face or sort of that individual, and that can change. That's not sort of the particulars of that are not especially ingrained.
No, I totally agree.
And is there a part of neurology and psychiatry which studies kind of the makeup of the brain when it comes to almost kind of examination of the self, if you like, where you think that there might be a doppelganger out there, or you might see somebody who's doppelganger, but actually your brain is kind of playing tricks on you?
There probably is. I guess, that's not my forte per se, so I won't claim to know.
It's not mine either.
Too much about that, but but I think you're right that there probably are some disorders in which people misperceive doppelgangers.
I mean, we've had for the course of the night, because we told people you were coming on. We've had people sending in loads of pictures of people that they think look like me and people that they think look like Mike Parry.
That's right.
And some of them do. But when I look at them, they're not an absolute double. Whereas, I mean, I've actually known people, friends of mine, who have been in somewhere like, I don't know, Athens. And I think it was Athens this person was in, and he came back from his holiday, and he said, I saw this guy, and he said, I knew you were in London, but I saw a guy who was your absolute and utter double. Now, I know you say that, that might just be their misperception, but, I mean, it is possible, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's certainly possible that you would find, there's obviously a range of individuals that would look somewhat like you, right? And some of those are going to be pretty close, just kind of, again, by chance, potentially. And certainly there's a lot of the way we perceive individuals is not just in their actual physical, bone structure of their face, but also the way they're carrying themselves, the type of clothing they wear, other sort of mannerisms about them. If you think about when you look at sketch comedy on TV, when they're impersonating politicians, right? Those actors personate a bunch of politicians, but they often look kind of spot on with, a moderate amount of makeup and just a few features that kind of exaggerate whatever it is about the sort of, ethos of that person they're impersonating, right? So, there could be just, a few sort of caricaturist features that can really enhance the perception of similarity. Yeah. But, I think also in a situation like in Athens, where this person probably didn't really know anyone, so they're kind of looking around for people they might know sort of subconsciously perhaps, and they find someone that looks kind of similar to you, and that kind of, dings in their head like, hey, that's my friend Mike. Right. But of course, not in this case, right? So I think, there's all sorts of ways. And when I travel, I always kind of like see people that I know, but of course, they're never in another country at the same time.
I mean, has there been any research done on anyone who's actually met someone who was their exact double and how they reacted to that?
I'm not aware of anything like that specifically, but, I think people, there's certainly been some photo shoots and whatnot where people have like brought together very similar lookalikes, and I'm sure people have all sorts of intriguing interactions with people that end up looking very similar to them. But I don't know. I mean, I guess if I were to meet a doppelganger, I would be kind of surprised.
Yes, I think we all would. Michael, thank you very much indeed. Michael J. Sheehan, Assistant Professor of Neurobiology and Behaviour at Cornell University. Do you remember that guy who was the Jamie Vardy lookalike who was in here? And he was sitting downstairs.
That's right. Yeah, I do.
And I mean, isn't it a bit like when you know twins? I don't know if you've ever known twins particularly well.
Yes.
But as you get to know them better, you can tell them apart more easily, right?
Yeah.
The same with someone like him. And there's another guy up in Manchester who's always pretending to be Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who actually doesn't look anything like Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Well, but the more you look at them, the more you realise that can't be him or that can't be Jamie Vardy.
The other thing is that often doppelgangers completely lose the plot about the fact that they only look like somebody else. Now, you talked about the Jamie Vardy lad.
Yes.
Now, he was in here a couple of times.
He was.
And then I think he started to enjoy the fame of looking like Jamie Vardy.
Yeah.
And he started going to other places. And then we're getting reports back that actually he'd become rather important in his own image. And
did Jamie Vardy then not take some kind of injunction out on it?
Jamie Vardy then had to go to lawyers and restrict the amount of impersonatory activity that the man could take in Jamie Vardy's life. But I tell you something, when we were in the States, Mike, in the 80s, I remember Philip Finn, our late great colleague, God rest his soul, telling me that he went to interview a bloke who made a living from impersonating Richard Nixon.
Oh, yeah.
Tricky Dicky, And he goes to see this bloke, and he said the problem is the man had been doing it for so long, Nixon had overtaken him. He thought he was Richard Nixon.
So he wasn't he was always in character.
He was always in character. character, and he was issuing instructions to people in hotels and all this kind of stuff, you know. And I need a bathroom.
Yeah.
And they said, well, sorry, sir, the bathroom. No, I don't. That's not a bathroom. I need a presidential bathroom.
Really?
Go find me a presidential bathroom that nobody else has used.
So he lost the plot.
And all this kind of stuff, yeah.
How bizarre.
Yeah.
Somebody sent another doppelganger review, which is Burl Ives. Remember him?
Burl Ives? Who was he?
He was a film star in the sort of late 50s.
Film star? What did he star in?
Burl Ives. He was in loads of things.
Oh, rubbish. He's never in a great film.
Yeah, he's been in loads of films. He was in a lot of kids' films as well.
Rubbish. I've never seen him. He wasn't in the Vikings.
He sang a couple of songs as well.
He wasn't in Reach for the Sky. He wasn't in Titanic or A Night to Remember.
He wasn't in Gladiator either.
He wasn't in Gladiator.
Well, I'll find you some of the films.
Sounds like a B-movie bum to me.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll keep you updated as well on the incredibly exciting vice presidential debate between
exactly.
Mike Pence and Tim Kaine.
Oh, my
which
God.
is going on at the moment. Possibly one of the worst looking sets you've ever seen on TV. This is TalkSport. This is TalkSport. We are the two mics. Lots more to come, including Ask Porky, of course, in the next hour. I've done a bit of research on Burl Ives for you. He was, of course, in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, which is one of my favourite films. I should have remembered
that. Elizabeth Taylor?
Elizabeth Taylor and Paul Newman.
And
he plays the sort of the college kind of athletics hero who gets injured and can't do it anymore. And Burl Ives is a dad, who's brilliant in it, actually.
Really?
And he was a lifelong supporter of the Boy Scouts of America. He won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in The Big Country, which I think was a Western, wasn't it?
That was John Wayne, wasn't it?
I think it was.
Wasn't that a John Ford film?
I think it might have been,
Yeah, The Big Country.
Yeah. Epic Western. Directed by William Wyler. Gregory Peck, Gene Simmons, Carol Baker, Charlton Heston, and Burl Ives.
Guess
who else was in it?
No, John Wayne.
Guess who else was in it? The guy from Branded.
Branded?
You know, Branded, Born with the Sword of Shame. You know that one with Chuck Connors.
No, I don't
remember Branded.
No,
you don't remember Branded.
No, I remember Chuck Connors in. He was like a backwoodsman with a big rifle. Do you remember that?
No. Branded was the thing where it started with this guy standing in a uniform.
Yeah.
And this guy came up to him and ripped all the stuff. I'm sure we've talked about this. And ripped all the sort of
he
epaulets
was branded as a coward or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And he was kicked out of the army.
Yeah.
And then he became a sort of an outlaw.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Tennessee Williams, by the way, the brilliant playwright, American playwright.
Yes.
Cat on a Hot Tin Roof.
Yeah.
He was. He based himself in Rome. Right.
Did he?
Yeah. What happened was, it's amazing, a lot of these American writers, like Tennessee Williams and who was the guy who kept writing all them books about...
Which books?
You know, American great novels. Gore Vidal.
Ernest Hemingway.
Gore Vidal. Ernest Hemingway. Yeah, Gore Vidal.
Gore Vidal.
Gore Vidal, that's him, yeah. They all based themselves...
Sounds like something you got down the doctor's surgery.
No, they all based themselves in Europe because taxes in America were so high after the Second World War.
Was it not also something to do with McCarthyism as well?
I think it was a bit of McCarthyism.
I mean, certainly when it comes to Gore Vidal. Gore Vidal was a great Kennedy supporter.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
So you may find that he was maybe over there because he wanted to stay out of the way of the McCarthyites.
It could have been, indeed. Yeah. But Tennessee Williams took over Rome, and I read his autobiography. It was brilliant. He loved Rome because...
He did a Streetcar Named Desire as well, didn't he?
He did a Streetcar Named Desire, yeah. But he would ride around in a Jeep, an ex-US government Jeep, in Rome, and every policeman... And he was a massive drinker as well. And every policeman in Rome just completely ignored his driving.
Well, they used to do that anyway.
Alcoholism and all that kind of stuff. But he's an amazing character. Now, listen, I've got a great note here. It's from one of our listeners, Geordie Jeff. He says, I've had experience of doppelganger on my own housing estate where people have pulled me up asking how did I get on with my operation, what did I do with the money I won in the lottery, and did I get compensation from the car accidents, none of which were me. It worries me that what if my double was a criminal and I fitted the description and ended up getting locked up for his evil acts, says Geordie Jeff. Well, I suppose that's something to worry about.
Well, and what if that person is actually impersonating you?
Yeah.
That is very possible.
Yeah, of course it is, yeah.
Peter says this, Burl Ives made a great Christmas album in the 60s, Have a Holly Jolly Christmas.
An album? Like
he was
singing?
a singer, yeah. Well, he was a
He's
singer.
singer as well as an actor.
He did a couple of kids. I'm sure he did a couple of kids songs.
Never heard of him.
I don't think it was Nelly the Elephant, but the Ugly Bug Ball. I think he did.
The
He did a lot of stuff for
Ugly Bug Ball
for Disney and stuff like that.
Not sure about that.
You don't know the Ugly Bug Ball?
No, I don't.
Really?
No.
How about this
seriously,
from Steve? This is a guy who's been conversing with our friend Marcus in Barbados over the last few days. He says, I finally made it to Barbados, and I'm listening to Porky watching the sea lap up against the bar while getting bladderated.
Oh, OK, good man. Well, that's a good way to take the stress out of a situation like that, which could turn nasty. Now then, how often have you played squash?
How often?
Yes.
There was a period in my life when I played it a bit. It was probably when I was at university.
It's an elitist sport, though, isn't it?
I wouldn't say so.
It is. It's elitist.
I don't think that's
People
true.
who go to squash courts are elitist.
That's not true.
They
I mean,
are.
in almost any sort of place where you find a public swimming pool or a public sort of gym or anything like that, they normally have squash courts.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do.
No, they don't.
Well, everywhere I've been, they have.
Squash is an elitist sport, and also they've tried over the years to make it a spectator sport, and it just doesn't work. You can't make it a spectator sport.
Well, I mean, it's a very fast-moving sport.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it looks weird when they put them in some of those glass cubes.
That's right.
You know. But
I
remember
only
there
see
was
it from the back, and the ball bouncing.
I remember there was a world squash champion from Leicester.
Yeah.
And he was a Pakistani, of Pakistani origin, named Khan. And I can't remember what his first name was.
Yeah, but hang on.
I remember going to interview him at some point.
Wasn't he world squash champion for about 15 consecutive years?
He
or
was,
something?
yeah. He was a massively
That's what I
successful
mean.
player. Yeah,
Yeah, but never.
he was a very ordinary kid. He wasn't he wasn't from a privileged family. It was, you know.
Yeah, that's because the world squash champion earned about the same as the local milkman. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know about that.
No,
I think
you did.
He was quite successful. But I played a bit at university, I would say.
Anyway, the reason I ask
But why do you ask?
Well,
Have you
the
played
reason
squash?
I played a bit of squash. And I got a squash racket because my mate Colin Bell, who eventually drunk himself to death at a very young age, so wasn't the best sort of guy.
I thought you used to play tennis with him.
I did play a bit of tennis with him, but also squash. And we went to the Richmond squash court, right, in Richmond. In Surrey, yeah.
Was that next to the Royal Mid-Surrey Golf Club?
Yes, that's right, yeah,
Down by
absolutely.
the side, by the swimming pool?
And by the golf, by the rugby ground as well.
Yeah, by the swimming pool.
That's right, yeah. And we used to play there a bit.
You used to have trouble with you people trying to park in our private road.
Is that right? Yeah. But the reason we joined the squash club was because there are a lot of very attractive women there who played.
Yeah, but you told me that was why you joined the tennis club.
Yeah, it was. That's true. That's absolutely
which tennis club did you join? Same one?
No, we joined one in Epsom, I think. Epsom Tennis.
I don't know
Club,
where you found time to do all this.
Well, in those days we were like hard-working. Well, I was a hard-working reporter. Unfortunately, Cole didn't like working very hard. He spent most of his time drinking. That's why he died of cirrhosis of the liver in his 40s, which was very sad.
Yeah, it was very sad. Probably not helped by having to go out and drink with you.
Well, no, that's true.
I mean, did you not feel any sense of guilt over that?
Well, not really, because, I thought he was a social drinker when we first met. But I tell you where I found out that he had a problem. It was the day after the Hazel Stadium disaster. Because what happened was, I was watching that on television at home. I lived then in sort of Palmer's Green in North London, right? And the guy who was running the night desk, David Elides, didn't know much about football.
Right.
So he wasn't even watching the game.
Right.
And of course, as I was watching the game and this terrible tragedy was unfolding, I rang him and I said, "Are you watching this? You know what's going on?" And he said, "No." I said, "Haven't the sports desk alerted you?"
Colin Bell or Elides?
This is Elides, the night news editor. I said, "Haven't the news desk, haven't the sports desk alerted you?" He said, "No." He said, "Should I go and see him?" I said, "Well, you don't need to." I said, "But listen, you need to start dispatching people to Belgium very, very fast." I said, "This terrible tragedy is unfolding. People are losing, Anyway, so he just said, "Look, just go and ring me from Dover." You know what I mean?
Right.
And I said, "You'll need a couple of other people." I said, ring him now and get him down there. So anyway, I got halfway down there, rang him in, and he said, I couldn't believe the size of the tragedy. There's 4 more people on the way with you, no, fine. One of them was Colin Bell. Now, the next morning, I took control of the situation because we'd come from all different parts of England, and I said, "Look, fellas, I'm assuming control here because I got it first. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
I want you to go to the stadium. I want you to go to the police station. I want you to go to the fire station, the rescuers. I want you to go to the hospital and the mortuary. I want you to go to the airport, for people."
Because also, as people will need to know at this point, back then, communications were nothing like they are now.
Nothing like they are now. We didn't have mobile phones.
And there was no 24-hour television news.
No.
You were only watching it, presumably, as you were watching a football game.
As you were watching a football match, absolutely. It wasn't being thrown up on 24-hour television. And there were no mobile phones. So I had to say to the guys, right, this is what I want you all to do. And we get back here at 3:30 this afternoon, and then we start compiling what we've got, putting it all together, because otherwise we're going to be throwing paint at the wall, aren't we? Right, OK, that's fine. And off everybody went. So we got back, and that was like 7:30 a.m.
Right.
the morning after the disaster. Now, 3:30 that afternoon, so that's 8 hours later, we all got back, everybody came back, but Colin was still sitting at the bar where I'd left him that morning, drinking brandy and coffee, and he was off his head.
Right.
Completely gone.
This was in Belgium.
Yeah. And
so he hadn't done anything?
Hadn't done anything.
Really?
And I said, you were supposed to have gone to the hospital. Why haven't you been to the hospital? I said, it's a vital part of, you know, how many casualties, how many people are dead. And he said, and he just waved his arm around and said, I put a freelancer on it. I said, What do you mean you put a freelancer on it? Who's going to pay the budget for that? And what are you doing? And where is the freelancer?
So was this the end of your beautiful friendship then?
Absolutely the end of our beautiful friendship. He completely lets everybody down.
Yeah.
So we then had to dispatch somebody else to the hospital because, you know, as you quite rightly say, there weren't mass communications those days. You had to go and get the information.
Go there,
exactly. Yeah.
You couldn't look it up and get it from anywhere
But anyway,
else.
look, the reason I'm talking about squash
So
is...
what happened after that? Did he fire him then?
Well, I wasn't the boss then, but I became the boss shortly afterwards. And with that in mind, I had to have a conversation with him to say, look, you know, if there's ever a repeat of that sort of situation again, you know, it's a good job that nobody ever told anybody in London what you got up to. And sadly, because then I was aware of what he'd done in Belgium, I kept a very close eye on him.
Yeah.
And it was obvious he was completely unable to work as a working journalist in Fleet Street because he would become an alcoholic.
Right.
And he couldn't work. So I had to tell him he had to go.
Right.
And I remember
So
his
he died,
leaving
didn't
do. He was carried out of his own leaving do, you know, because he couldn't. No, seriously, he couldn't.
Touching story.
Yeah. No, seriously. Seriously, it was terrible. He was carried up the stairs from the City Golf Club and put into a car because that was it. It was the end of it. And a couple of years later, no less, he turned up in Scotland working with Terry Manners, and Terry was the Scotch Editor Express. And by that stage, he looked like a victim of a terrible wasting disease. Right. And he carried a tatty little briefcase around with a bottle of Iron Brew in it, full of whiskey. And he used to disappear to the men's bathroom every 10 or 15 minutes, take a swig of whiskey from his bottle. It was a tragic story. But he was my squash partner, and he was the fittest man in the world when I first met him, literally, because you have to be very fit to play squash.
You do.
And within 5 years, he'd degenerated to the point where he died.
Well, let that be a warning to
Terribly
anyone
sad.
who wants to drink that much. I've got a great picture here just to cheer everybody up. It's from Edo, and it's this 2-week-old enjoying the show as she falls back asleep. Porky puts most people to sleep, to be fair. Isn't that nice?
Let's have a look.
Oh, she's got the old got the podcast
lovely
on.
little girl. There's a picture of a
baby.
kid, by the way, in tomorrow morning's papers, who's just 2 months old. He's got a huge, full head of hair.
Really?
Oh, he looks terrible.
Well,
can't bear to see children with full heads of hair. I think I was like that.
Well, who says, hello, Two Mikes. Have you seen that guy who has spent thousands on plastic surgery so he can look like Beckham? # deluded. I have seen that guy.
Yeah, I have as well,
He spent something like 20,000 quid
Absolutely.
trying to look like David Beckham, and he looks nothing like him.
Absolutely crazy.
He looks absolutely nothing like him.
I know, nothing like him. Right, Luxury Lizzie here says, I see Porky more as the prima ballerina in the Sugar Plum Fairy.
Do you mean prima ballerina?
Yeah, sure you can envisage this, MG.
Yeah.
Love you guys.
Yes,
Thank
indeed.
you, Luxury Lizzie.
How about this from Vicky, who says, will tomorrow's Porky Vision feature Strictly Come Dancing? I would love to hear the bearded weirdo describe Ed Bull's Charleston.
Well, I think Ed Bull's a disgrace. The idea that he was once wanted to be taken seriously as the First Minister of the Treasury, and he's now clowning around.
Yeah. Maybe they should just have a dance-off between him and George Osborne to work out who's the worst Chancellor.
Yeah, maybe.
You know, and sort of count it down to the final foxtrot.
Yeah.
Foxtrot Oscar.
Couldn't disagree with that. I think it's appalling that man was ever taken seriously.
Yeah, I know.
Talk Sport.
And it's in!
A diving header at the end of a 50-yard run.
From the root to the tip.
Talk Sport.
You're listening to the Two Mikes, and this is Mike Porky Parry, and the reason I'm talking to you now is we're waiting the return of old MG, who just suddenly walked back into the studio. Very nice to see you.
Thank you very much
for joining
indeed,
me.
I had to get some water.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, what's wrong with the throat? Getting a bit dry?
No, not really.
Is that 40 fags a day starting to rattle the old vocal cords?
I don't smoke 40 fags a day.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is Owen. Thank you very much indeed
it's my pleasure.
for helping us out. We've got Ask Porky coming up, of course, in this hour, so Porky will be in a much better mood because he'll be helping everybody out.
Absolutely.
You're listening to Two Mikes with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. There will be a podcast coming up. We're having a few complaints, notably from a guy called Graham, who says, can you sort out the overrunning ads, please? They really get on my nerves. I'm not aware of anything that's a problem from this end, but I mean, if it's on the, I don't know if it's on the app or if it's online, maybe you let us know and we can tell someone that it's not working terribly well.
Yeah,
but we do absolutely apologise if there was any inconvenience. Now, I actually had quite a healthy day today because you and I had a meeting this morning, which we had to attend.
We did.
And I popped into Borough Market on the way home and I thought I'll just buy a few bits and pieces of things. And
what did you buy?
I bought some vegetables because there's a fantastic vegetable store there. I bought some tomatoes, some lemons.
Yeah, I had some vegetables today as well.
Did you?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
You never have vegetables?
I do, yeah.
What did you have then?
I've forgotten what it's called now. The green stuff.
The green stuff. What, beans?
No,
green beans?
No.
Cabbage?
No, sorry.
Kelp?
No. I've forgotten what it's called. It's
asparagus?
No, it's that green.
Peas?
No, like florets of it. You know, florets of this.
Oh, broccoli.
Broccoli, that's it. Yeah, broccoli.
You had broccoli?
It's great, yeah, broccoli.
What did you do with it?
I had it with a shepherd's pie.
Oh, very nice.
Yes.
Well, did you cook it, you mean?
Yes, I did.
Did you?
Yes.
Did you cook the shepherd's pie?
Yes.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Because shepherd's pie is going to be one of my recipes that I'm going to put up on our new website.
On your website, when we get that.
Recipe page.
Excellent. That's good.
Did you make it with lamb?
Yes, I bought the lamb mince.
Minced lamb.
From Tesco's.
Yeah. Very good. And what did you do with the broccoli, though?
Well, you know what I did with it. I boiled it, of course, and ate it alongside the
but I just want to hear you say it.
Well, why?
Well, because why don't you steam it? I keep telling you, steam it. It's much better.
I haven't got a steam pan, so I didn't bother.
But you know what you can do? You can put it in a sieve or a colander, right? Yeah. And cover it with a lid, and just put it over the boiling water, and it steams it.
Yeah,
it's very easy.
Yeah, you say that. Anyway,
I bought, and then I wanted to buy some corned beef because there's a fantastic butcher there. I've
got corned beef in at the moment.
This corned beef is the best corned beef you've ever had in your life. Right?
Is it dry or sort of moist?
It's I would say it's drier than the stuff you normally would get in a supermarket.
It a bit drier,
and it's really good.
Yes,
and they slice it for you. You know,
excellent.
And they didn't have any. They said, "Oh, we're not getting any until Thursday."
So what did you have instead?
So I bought a couple of Scotch eggs. One of which I'll probably have when I get home later on this morning.
Yeah, okay.
And I bought a steak and kidney pie because they also do brilliant pies, which I've never bought from them before.
Okay.
So I'm going to try that maybe later on.
Right. Okay.
And then because of that, because they always say don't go shopping when you're hungry.
Yes.
The thing about Borough Market is they've got all these great stalls.
Yes. Okay.
So apropos of our conversation the other night.
Yes.
About veal and venison.
Yes.
There's a stand that does venison burgers, and I had a venison burger.
Okay.
And it was delicious.
Really?
Yeah.
What did it taste like then?
Well, it's slightly more gamey than beef.
Yes.
But not terribly, but it's not so gamey that you feel like it's too rich.
And have...
it's very, very tender. And it's not very fatty either.
Oh, it's tender, not fatty. And you have sauce on it?
They gave it to me with caramelised onions.
Right.
And something called bacon jam, which they spread, which was a very nice sort of flavour and some cheese.
Bacon jam?
Yeah, bacon jam, yeah.
What's that like?
Well, it looks a bit like it looks a bit like pâté, but very smooth.
Right, okay. What's it taste of?
Tastes like bacon.
Bacon, I see. Yeah, okay.
It was really good.
Well, that sounds a bit. There'd be too many different flavours in that for me to enjoy it by putting it in my mouth.
I'm going to have to take once we get to a point where we can go there for a drink in the afternoon.
Yes,
maybe next week.
Yes,
I'll take you there for a burger.
Oh, will you? That's very kind of you. And then did you buy some stuff to take home? Some meat?
No, I didn't. I just bought vegetables and I bought the steak kidney pie and a couple of Scotch eggs.
Okay, excellent.
So I might make some soup.
Yeah, well, I'm
getting to that kind of weather.
Yeah, I'm very glad you told me that. Now, the reason I was rambling on about squash before, by the way, right, is that I think it's elitist because the RAF Club, which is a private members club in Piccadilly.
Yes.
But I mean, it's really elitist, right?
I mean, is it one of those you have to have been in the RAF as an officer or something?
No, but I mean, you have to have connections in society, I think, to get in.
Well, surely you'd get in with your connections with the Commodore.
Yeah, I would, actually. Yeah, I would, yeah. I'm sure the Commodore would recommend me. But anyway, what's happened is they want to replace 2 squash courts, which are hardly ever used, and they're built between 1919 and 1921.
Right.
With extra facilities, like, more rooms and ensuite bathrooms and all that. And they've had more than 50 objections to the proposition because they say it'd be a travesty for the sport and for the London squash history.
Yes.
Who cares about London squash history?
Well, I mean, if it's their club, surely they can do with it what they wish.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm talking about the people that are members of it. They should be able to block anything that happens that they don't want to happen.
The club has got 24,000 members,
right,
and they've received...
That's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, 24,000 members is a hell of a lot. And what's holding up the redevelopment is a complaint from 50 members, which represents 0.03% of the club's 24,000 members. Yeah. So nobody plays squash anymore. Yeah. Waste of time.
Well, I don't know if that's true. I mean, whenever I've been anywhere, because quite often when the kids were a little bit younger, we'd take them to, there was a sort of a soft play area, if you like, inside one of these big gyms that was run by the council.
Yes.
somewhere down the south coast, and there was loads of people who play squash there.
Yeah.
About 8 courts.
Well, this is interesting because you see this. You think this is just a gentleman's club, the RAF club, right?
Yeah.
It has. Let me see, 93 bedrooms.
93.
93.
And also, this kind of feeds into what you were saying before, that a lot of people now, because a lot of these clubs are quite cheap to stay in, will use it as a kind of hotel when they come to London, right?
The rooms start at £44.
That's incredible, isn't
How about that?
Yeah.
So it's no wonder they want to extend them. Right, they've only, out of the 24,000 members, right, this is, and this development's been held up by the squash players, only 17 players play squash.
17?
17.
Out of the 24,000?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
That's a bit small, isn't
So
it?
exactly, so that's what I'm saying. So they've got to get rid of the squash courts, haven't they? But because they're elitist, they won't.
Well, it's not a question of being elitist. I mean, it's part of the history of the building, apart from anything else, isn't it?
Well, it's not only is it history of the building, they play one of the world's most famous tournaments there, the London Bath Cup.
Right.
Right? So, but I mean, have you heard of the London Bath Cup? Because I haven't.
I haven't, no.
No, exactly.
But then I'm not somebody that follows squash particularly.
No, exactly. England Squash, the game's national governing body, has urged trustees to reconsider knocking them down, citing the court's heritage. They were built before the standard sizes were agreed and are 17 inches narrower on either side than the modern equivalents.
Oh, yeah.
So these courts aren't even modern enough to play the modern game
So
on.
they're not actually regulation courts?
Not regulation courts. No, guess what the spokesman's called?
Go on.
Squadron leader, literally, for the RAF club.
Bandits at 11 o'clock?
Yeah, that's right. Squadron leader Philip Tilstone.
Yeah.
He said, whilst I understand the commercial reasons for the decisions to close the courts, I find it extremely disappointing that no other arrangements have been proposed.
Yes, quite right too, squadron leader.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely right.
But hang on. But retired wing commander...
That's great.
C.E. Vary, doesn't even give a first name, right? Retired wing commander C. Vary said, more income-generating facilities will help the club to sustain its position to the great advantage of future generations of members.
Yes.
So I think he's on the right lines.
Yeah, I think so. I think it sounds to me like in the end, the
Squash
people who
clubs will
want
go.
the squash courts will go.
They'll have to go.
But
yeah.
I mean, it's. I mean, the small short amount of time I used to spend playing it,
Yeah.
I quite liked it as a game.
Yes.
Yeah, I quite liked it as a game. I like the idea that you could play the ball against the back wall.
Yeah.
You know, to score to win the
Sure.
point.
Do you remember at the Express we had a sports editor there called Ken? Now, what was his name? Ken. He had blonde hair and glasses. Ken.
Yes, I remember him. Yeah.
I wish I could remember his name. He had great ambitions to become the editor. He was a right groveler.
Was it Ken Lawrence?
Ken Lawrence, thank you very much indeed. He used to grovel to the editor all the time because he thought he'd be the next editor or the deputy editor.
Yes.
And he used to do things like send sports reporters round to his to the editor's house to help him move furniture and all this kind of stuff. Oh yeah, it was ridiculous, you know. But anyway, Ken came staggering in one day, and I said, "All right there, Ken." He said, "Yeah." He was a West Country man, it's my knees, I mean, oh, what's wrong with your knees?
Yeah.
Oh, he says, playing squash twice a day for the last 30 years has done this to my knees. In fact, it was all a load of complete cobblers. Eh?
Was he a pirate?
Well, yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, he's West Country guy. But it was all complete load of
baloney, was it?
He played squash about once a month, and the rest of the time he went to the squash club, literally, and stood at the bar for 6 hours and drank double whiskies.
Well, your former boss, right, not just at the Express, but at PA, whose name we very rarely mention.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
One of his catchphrases used to be, and I don't know if he did this when you were there, but when I was there as like foreign editor, and your second in command had taken over your job. He used to walk out after conference. He'd walk down the that sort of long corridor.
Yes.
And he'd be putting his jacket on, and he'd rub his hands together. He'd go, quick game of squash, then I'll be back and we'll really get going on the paper.
Yeah.
And we just used to look at him and go, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
By the time, you get back, we'll have done half of it.
Exactly, yeah.
But he used to go and play squash quite a bit.
Really?
Now, we've got somebody who wants to talk about squash.
Oh, okay.
Who's Adam. He's an Aberdeen fan.
Excellent.
And I think he's calling maybe from Aberdeen. Adam, very good morning to you.
How are you doing?
Yeah, good.
Very well indeed,
What do you want
thanks.
to tell us about squash, Adam?
Good, aye. Yes. Squash is now a good spectator sport because they've actually changed the show courts and they are now glass.
Yes, I've seen that.
The way
yeah, but I mean, you can't get
all the way around, right?
You can't get that many people watching it, though, can you?
Oh no, yeah. Well, the last tournament I watched on the telly on BT in Cairo, 12,000 people were watching.
Really?
Well, not 12,000 people actually in the building itself.
Yeah, it must have been, yeah.
No, it can't be. You can't have 12,000 people watching a game of squash.
They have to have opera glasses.
Yeah, exactly. How far away from the court are you going to be? 12,000 people. That's massive. You still there?
You sure, Adam?
Adam? Yeah, okay.
Who told you? Who told you? Who told you? Hang on. Who told you there was 12,000 people?
In front of the pyramids. In front of the pyramids.
The pyramids?
In front of the pyramids?
What are you on about? Oh, yeah. Sorry. Did this take place in the Valley of Kings?
In Egypt, in front of the pyramids. That's in Cairo. That is where the final.
Must have been a bit hot.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah, it is. It is hot in Egypt. Yeah.
Hot.
Yeah.
So have you been, Adam? Have you seen a live game then, Adam? You know, like a high level game.
Well, oh yeah, I was at the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow a couple of years ago.
Oh, okay. And who's the current world squash champion then?
Current world squash champion is Ramir Ashore.
Yeah.
Where's he?
Listen, I'm going to back you up here, Adam. I've just been brought an illustration from one of our production staff of a game of squash taking place in the Valley of Kings in front of the pyramids, and I'm showing it to my colleague here.
Looks like a lot of people,
which is brilliant, and it's all lit up very brightly indeed. But I don't think there's 12,000 people there. I don't think so.
Well, it looks like there's a lot of people there.
A couple of thousand. Yeah. But anyway, look, Adam, thank you very much indeed for letting us know.
So
it's very good.
Somebody with a nugget of information.
Indeed.
Which is tremendous.
No, it's very good.
Fantastic stuff. We are running late, however. Ask Porky's coming up very soon. This is Talk Sport. Apparently somebody's supposed to say broccoli at some point here.
Sorry, what is this crazy record?
Somebody's meant to say broccoli at some point.
Have they said it yet?
No.
Pretty pointless ramble, to be honest.
I know.
Sounds like some very poor reggae artist.
Yes.
You know, trying to do an imitation
maybe he's a very rich reggae artist.
Who was the great reggae artist who died of cancer?
Well, there were many. Do you mean Bob Marley?
Bob Marley, yeah, sounds like him.
Bob Marley, the Wailers.
Yeah, that's right. Now, listen.
Well, we'll have another go at it later.
We will indeed. Now, listen.
How about this from someone who's called Sean? He says, Adam sounds like he spent his time at the bar at the squash centre, not playing.
Does,
yeah. Hashtag blooderated.
Yeah, well, he comes from Aberdeen, and people in Aberdeen are a lively bunch, I would say, wouldn't you?
Yeah, we should go to Aberdeen, shouldn't we?
Yeah, well, definitely, the Granite City.
Yeah.
Now then, I talked earlier about, sadly, about a colleague of mine, Colin, who died because he became an alcoholic.
Who you fired?
Now, interestingly, I've had a card here, and I want to thank the sender, who's a chap called Mark, okay?
Mark.
And the reason it's interesting is twofold. Firstly, it's got a picture of a little pig on the front with his wellies on.
Yeah, I like that.
And it's one of them pigs that women put in handbags. You know what I mean?
What
are they called?
Hey?
They're not toy pigs, are they?
What do you mean, like real? It's a real pig?
Yeah, it's a real little baby pig.
Who puts it in a handbag?
They do. Ladies of leisure put these little pigs. Yeah, what are they called?
I've never seen a woman with a pig in her
handbag.
handbag.
Yeah, it's a special name, but they're a tiny little pig anyway. And
it's not a Vietnamese pot-bellied pig.
No, it's not. Definitely
George Clooney's got one of them.
No, they're big.
And they're black. As
well. And what Mark is saying in his card is he's saying that you've got a roof garden and this is a little pig and it could be a pet. So thank you for that. But anyway, the point of the story is.
Yeah, what is the point of the story?
He says. Hi Mike, I hope you like the pig on the front of the card, perfect pet for your roof garden, that kind of stuff. And then Mark goes on to say how much he likes the show, thank you very much indeed. And he goes on about your partiality towards champagne. And
has he got some problem with that?
Sorry?
Has he got some problem with that?
No, he's got no problem with it. He just says that you finish your drink, neck 2 or 3 more, and then go looking for the right party and all this kind of stuff, That's what he's saying.
About?
Well, that's the sort of image you give out. Because
I don't give any image out.
No, he's relating to the story when you went off to some leaving do and went into the wrong room.
I went into the wrong room, yeah.
And you quaffed the champagne before you left and all that. Anyway, the point of my story here is he says, thank you very much indeed for the show. He says... MG is a serious bladderizer. I love the show, says Mark. And then he says, P.S.
You see, this is what annoys me about you.
Yes.
So you've put out this image of me constantly on the terps somewhere.
Well, you do spend a lot of time on the terps.
No, I don't. I spend much less time than you do.
Well, hang on. Sorry.
I spend much less time than you do.
Sorry, did you go for a drink with a friend this afternoon?
I did, yeah.
After our business meeting this morning?
I did indeed.
And did you earlier this week post a picture of you in the Shard with a friend?
That was last week.
Last week?
That was last Tuesday. That was a week
drinking.
ago.
Yeah,
that was a week ago.
Drinking champagne.
Yes.
Yes, expensive champagne.
It was expensive, yeah.
Exactly. So, well, I don't, you don't find pictures of me week in, week out.
Well, no, because you don't send pictures out.
Well,
I mean, how much time did you spend in the pub on Friday and Saturday?
Very little time.
Really?
Very little
Are you
time.
sure?
Absolutely certain.
Right, okay.
Anyway, I haven't got the point of the story here.
Yeah,
Mark
I know you
says, P.S.
Get on with it.
Sober for 25 years, in AA, but still have an alcoholic mind.
Well, that's what alcoholics do say. That, you never actually,
see-
you're always an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter whether you drink or not.
Yeah.
Because it's a disease.
But you see, that must be agony. And
I'm
if
sure it
Mark's
is.
listening now, for every minute of the day, if you're craving drink, but you can't have one, that's tough.
Well, that's addiction for you, isn't it?
You think so?
Yeah.
So how do you forget about it then?
Well, I don't know. I'm not addicted to
Don't
it.
do something else, or?
Well, I mean, I told you about our friend Mike McDonough, who was a
Yes.
recovering alcoholic,
Yes.
and I used to go on jobs with him.
Yeah.
This was a guy, the former journalist who's also now no longer
I think
with
he went
us.
to an AA meeting every day of his life, didn't he?
He pretty much did, yeah. I mean, he went on a job to Florida, I think it was once, and he told me that he just had to basically extend everything that he did during the day to take a much, much longer time, because he said if he ever had any leisure time, he basically wanted to go to a bar. So he had to spend as much time as he possibly could getting ready to go out. Having breakfast was like an hour and a half's thing. He came down for breakfast and he was half an hour late, first of all. And I'd been sitting there, I'd finished my breakfast, and he said, I'm sorry. He said, but I take a long time to get ready because it kills more time in the day. And then we sat at the breakfast table for about another hour while he kind of pushed his food around a plate and had some coffee, and then we decided to go out, and everything that he did was deliberately elongated to stop him from having any leisure time to think about having a drink.
He's dead now, isn't he?
He is.
Mike, yeah, sadly. Yeah,
Well, I did say he passed away.
Yeah, I knew him quite well.
He's a great guy. Really nice guy.
Yeah, he's a
but,
good guy, yeah.
but he was unfortunately in the grip of, as you say, the grape. And he couldn't.
The grip
and
of
he
the grape.
He couldn't do anything else other than just avoid drinking. He couldn't have one drink.
See, I don't quite understand that, because in the past I've read about Robbie Williams having problems with drink, and then Elton John advised him to give it up.
Yeah.
But as far as I understand, Robbie Williams hadn't got to the point where he was, a Paul Gascoigne type character. You know what I mean?
But I mean, I think
he was just, a heavy social drinker,
Yeah, but I
which
think
is
that
what we've been all our lives.
Yeah, but I think the definition as well of when you've got to a bad place with whatever the substance is when you start doing things that you wouldn't otherwise do.
Yeah, well,
and you get yourself into trouble because
we've all done things we shouldn't do in drink.
Well, no, but I mean in terms of your life, if your
Yes.
life starts to kind of spiral out of control
Yes.
because of the fact that you're drinking,
Yeah.
and you can't stop,
Yeah.
then that's when you have a problem.
Do you see the amazing story last week about the very kindly vicar who took in a homeless man who was an alcoholic, had a drink problem, and the homeless man ended up having a wild Rogerising fling with the vicar's wife.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, dear.
So that's
You're
not
not
a
going to
nice...
turn the other cheek in that one, are
Well,
you?
exactly. And I mean, it's not really a nice way to repay the hospitality of the
Milk
vicar.
of human kindness.
Milk of human kindness.
But did the vicar chuck him out?
No, the vicar understood, and the wife apologised and said she's sorry, but found the vicar rather boring, and
Dear me.
and the homeless.
So she fancies the homeless guy.
The homeless alcoholic seemed like a very.
Well, he may have had an interesting life.
Yeah, exactly. He seemed like a very.
So where is he now?
exotic
So are they
figure.
all still living in the same place?
No. The homeless alcoholics pushed off back to the homeless place.
Wherever that is.
The refuge.
But was he given like a room in the house and all that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and he became the odd job man for the parish and all that kind of
I've
stuff.
never heard it called that before.
No, exactly, but he was doing a bit more odd jobbing than the vicar realised.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Now, I notice you're having another cup of tea, by the way.
Yes.
Which I'm not.
Right.
And the reason I'm not having another cup of tea is because if you have too much caffeine, it interferes with your sleep pattern.
Yeah, but you drink too much water, you see. And
No, you can't. There's no such thing as drinking too much water.
Oh, there is.
Water is the elixir of life.
No, it's not. That's a
Do
terrible
you know
mistake.
in Bath, if you go to Bath, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever been there.
Yes.
But you know where Bath Abbey is, right in
Yes.
the centre of town? There's a water fountain there which has been there for centuries.
Right.
And it has engraved upon it, water is best.
Well, I'm sure it does.
Huh?
I'm sure it does.
What do you mean it does? That
Well,
doesn't make sense.
So what?
Water is best. Water is the best thing you can drink.
Water is the staff of life, but not in the quantities you drink it.
No, there is no such thing as drinking too much water.
You get brain damage drinking water.
Well, I might get brain damage working with you.
No.
Either.
I'm telling you. You ask anybody. You can.
Yeah, if you
literally-
drink ludicrous amounts. I don't
Yeah.
drink ludicrous amounts of water. I drink over the course of a 3-hour show. I probably drink about a litre. which is not very much.
That's a lot of water.
No,
that.
it isn't.
Believe me, it is, and
it cleanses you.
It will bloat your body as well.
No,
it doesn't cleanse you.
incorrect.
That's a terrible myth.
Anyway, let me
honestly.
tell you this, from the Wayne State University and the Henry Ford Hospital study, which has been done on sleep deprivation, which is what you suffer from.
I don't.
Caffeine can take up to 6 hours to wear off.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're drinking caffeine in that tea. It will take 6 hours for that to wear off.
Yeah, but
you won't be able to go to sleep till 9:30.
That'd be ridiculous. Most caffeine's in coffee.
No, but there's caffeine in tea as well.
A little bit.
No, quite a lot, actually.
There's caffeine in Coca-Cola. There's caffeine in Red Bull.
Yep.
None of
all
it
of those
me.
things will keep you awake.
No, honestly.
Well, of course it bothers you. You don't sleep. How much sleep do you have today?
Oh, I don't know, about 3 or 4 hours, I
3 or
suppose,
4
something
hours.
like that, yeah. But I can't sleep anyway because I'm having a new heating system engineer coming round tomorrow.
Why?
To have a look at the heating.
What's wrong with it?
I'm going to have it
I thought
rebuilt.
you needed a new boiler.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but I'm going to have a look at that and see what's going on.
I thought either you need a new boiler or you don't.
Well, he's going to sort it out for me.
Is he?
Yeah, you see. So I've got to get these things done.
So he's coming around today?
Today,
So he's going to be hammering around?
Well, we'll see. You know, it's this guy'll be a top technician. He'll work out what's going on.
Right.
That's not a problem.
Okay. Well, I'll look forward to hearing how that goes.
Yes.
He'll probably fall through the floor or something. There'll be some calamity at Porky Towers. Help. And we're going to get on with it straight away because we've got lots and lots of questions that you need to answer. First one here comes from Neil on Facebook. My 22-year-old boy is still living at home. What is Porky's advice about the best way to get him to leave?
Well, I'd kick him out, to be honest. I mean, that's got to be hard love, that situation. If he's 22 now and he's living at home, I can tell you something. You're going to be in danger of waking up one day to find that your 30-year-old son is living at home with you. Got to stand on your own 2 feet. Kids have got to get out in the world and do their thing. He must have some sort of a job. He can drive a taxi if necessary, or he could work in a warehouse stacking shelves, earn his own money, and then he'll have to go and share a flat with other people. But I'm telling you, you are diminishing his character and personality and ability to make his own way in life. Every day you allow your 22-year-old son to live at home.
Excellent. This one's from Eric, who says, if you had to go into business with Poldark or Del Boy, who would you pick?
I'd pick Poldark, although obviously I'm very critical in my TV reviews of his inability to run a mine and to get anything much right in his life. I just feel that he is a man of honour, and he's a man who tries to do the right thing. Del Boy is the sort of grubby little thieving, conniving, swindling,
dodgy character.
Yeah. Downtrodden, dodgy character who I personally despise and can't stand. I never thought they were very funny. I thought he was a bit pathetic.
Now, this one is a rather deep question, actually.
Right.
I'm not sure if you will be able to answer it. Does the planet Earth get any heavier or lighter, says Oliver on Facebook, or does it remain the same weight?
It remains the same weight at all times.
Does it?
Yes, it doesn't get heavier. You can say, there's more people on Earth. No, there aren't, honestly. Dinosaurs used to be on the Earth, and they're a lot heavier than people. So the weight of the planet never changes.
Well,
because
not even when volcanoes happen
no,
and earthquakes.
No, never, because you can't weigh the planet. The planet spins around, and it's not fixed on any axis. And if it's not fixed on an axis, you can't weigh it.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about this from Stoko? Is it perfectly fine to have ham on toast? Also, I put crisps on my ham butty. Is this okay?
It's not all right to have ham on toast unless you've got a toasty machine. So stupid people, what they do is they put a couple of slices of bread into the toaster, so they've got 2 slices of toast, and then they try to make a toasty by just sort of putting a bit of ham in the middle and then putting it back in the toaster,
right.
Which of course is a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely.
And you get burnt toast as well. No, unless you've got a toaster machine, don't put ham in the middle of toast. Crisps and ham, no problem at all. If it's a butty on fresh white bread with butter and ham, of course you can insert some crisp in it if you want to make it a bit more munchy.
Quite right, too. Joe says this. At Newcastle University yesterday, I noticed there was a K80 room in the Student Union. What are your thoughts on this, and why isn't there a room named after the Porkmeister at the University of the Trent?
Well, there is, of course, a picture of me in the foyer of the King's School Chester, where I am their star pupil. Right. Yes, absolutely. And their headmaster was quoted today at the Headmasters' Conference, of course, which is a fantastic tribute and honour.
Yeah, what was his name again? Can't remember.
Andrew Rawlings.
Rawlings?
Yes, that's right.
No, that wasn't his
name.
It was,
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And anyway, let me just tell you, the Kate Eddy room at Newcastle, Kate Eddy's been a magnificent TV journalist over the years and really made a breakthrough for women in what I would call, action-adventure journalism. I worked with her in Libya and a few other places, worked with her in Rome once, actually, on a story, and it's a fully justified and fully deserved honour.
Excellent. Right. Thank you very much indeed. Here's any ideas from Eric? He says, I'm going to Sydney in 9 weeks.
Yeah.
Are there any must-do things that Porky would recommend?
Well, the places that I love in Sydney, where I've stayed a couple of times, is the Hyatt on the Rocks. Go down to the cocktail bar there. It's spectacular because you're overlooking the Sydney Opera House. And go to the Lord Nelson, which is a typically British pub. I would say it's about a mile inland from the Hyatt, where I went with my mate Frank Thorne, and we had a lovely traditional lunch there.
He's had a heart bypass recently.
Oh, has he?
Yeah.
Frank? Oh, I hope he's well. Yeah, and by the way. Because the city's grown so much since I was last there, just explore Sydney. Just ask somebody in the Hyatt where is the best bar for a high up view, sort of penthouse view, and go there and have yourself a couple of cocktails. Magnificent city, good choice.
Matty, apropos of what we were talking about earlier, Porky says alcohol is a drug. Should it be banned?
No, of course it shouldn't be banned, because tobacco is a drug. That shouldn't be banned, Caffeine is a drug. That shouldn't be banned. Point is, it's got to be, bladderation in moderation is the theme for the Two Mikes lifestyle and the Two Mikes show. And moderation doesn't mean that you can't get plastered. Of course you can get plastered, but just don't get plastered every night of the week. If you get plastered on a Friday night, have a quieter weekend, or have a quiet week and get plastered Friday and Saturday. It's moderation.
Doesn't sound like moderation to me.
It's moderation in terms of numbers of days, not numbers of drinks.
Okay. Here's one from Clifford. He says, Porky, how do you get by every day with a heart condition? I'm taking, I may pronounce this wrongly, atorvastatin.
Yeah,
40 milligrams from 10 milligrams, as I've been told it will give me a better chance.
Yeah.
What's that all about? I'm really depressed. Also have to take Lanzarapol and aspirin. I'm 58 on Saturday, work full-time most times in heavy industry.
Okay. Well, I take atorvastatin as well as 5 other drugs, which are things like carvedilol, peridiprol, and things like that. And I just take them and I get on with life. It's as simple as that. There's no magic formula. You'll have a heart consultant, presumably, and he will guide you as to how your lifestyle works. For me, it has always been walking. If I can walk up to 30 miles a week, that's brilliant. Some weeks I can't. You do get with the heart conditions, your muscles are susceptible to strains and pulls and tears because of the drugs you take. But if you can walk just 20 minutes a day or 30 minutes a day, walk upstairs instead of getting the lift, or walk 3 stops and before you get your bus or your train or something, you'll honestly, it will help you out enormously. It has helped me. I hope it helps you.
Here's one from Pierre. Dear Porky, where do we move to? I want to stay near, but she wants to stay near my folks in Croydon, and the wife wants to move further out and near her folks in Reading. We both work in London and we can't agree.
Yeah, well, that's a bit of a problem, really. Croydon's fine. It's a fine sort of suburb, but it's built up and it's intense. A lot of flat building going on in Croydon. Reading, I don't know much about it, but that is a long way out. It's the never-ending problem. You can live close into London and you don't have to do so much commuting, but property's very expensive, or you can live further out where you get a better value for money, but you do a lot of commuting. From my own point of view, perhaps selfishly, because I don't have a family, the closer I can live, the better. It's a decision you've got to make up with you and your wife.
Here's one from Kayang. He says, Porky, would you rather have MG's body, face or brain?
I wouldn't rather have any of them. I wouldn't have any of them, thank you. I mean, if that happened to me, I'd wake up in a nightmare thinking, I've turned into the man whose own image I least admire. So the answer to that is none of them, thanks.
Okay. Here's one from TMF. He says, do you think your old mate, Mr. Moyes, is already regretting taking the Sunderland job?
He may be, in the sense that he had a fantastic financial cushion when he left Manchester United and therefore was able to do what he did, which was to hang on for the right offer. But there was such an air of expectancy when he went to Sunderland, I think he was swept along on it and decided to get in there. Long-term wise, you won't regret it because David is a very able manager and he doesn't regret the challenge at all. That's what he's in the business for, as a football manager. However, I'm sure he'll be reflecting back on the days when Everton was such a stable club to work with and he had such a great chairman who cooperated with him compared to what he's doing now.
Right, now here's another football-related one from Carl. I don't know if you know much about Tranmere this season. He says, will Tranmere get promoted this season, and who do we bring in as manager?
Well, you're right, I don't know a lot about Tranmere.
I'll see if I can find where they are.
Well, I know Wrexham and Chester are mid-table in the Vanarama Conference, National Vanarama League, because they played each other recently, and a crowd of 6,000 went, which is a very big crowd for the Vanarama. I think Tranmere are they 2/3 of the way down Division 2?
Let's have a look here.
Because I think they got promoted recently. I wish them well because, of course, they are the third club on Merseyside and the club which, of course, spawned Dixie Dean, the greatest ever English goal scorer and Everton legend.
Right, I'm just saying they don't seem to be in League 2.
No, they're not in League 2, no.
And
no,
they
definitely
not
not.
in League 1 either.
No, they're not in League 1, so they must be in the Vanarama maybe with Wrexham and Chester.
Must be.
Yeah.
How about this one from Carl? Porky, when your time is up, who would you love to see on the other side and who would you hate to see?
Well, I think that's pretty obvious, isn't it? You want to see John Lennon for obvious reasons. He died in 1980, and it'll soon be 40 years, won't it, in 2020 and all that kind of stuff. People I don't want to see, there's a legion of them. There are people who I...
They don't want to see you either.
Exactly, and that's fine by me. There's only about 2 or 3 people I ever want to see in the afterlife, and the rest I couldn't care less about.
Now, this one will require a quite short answer, but I know you'll probably want to talk for a long time.
Okay.
Duckford says this: do you think more should be done on transport on the Thames instead of the cycle superhighway?
Well, I think the cycle superhighway is a complete waste of time, and every night when I drive home about this time, the acres and acres of road space left empty, but with traffic lights on, stopping me from progressing, is just it's just ridiculous. It's ludicrous. It's the most ridiculous transport policy ever invented. As for the Thames, yes, I think it should be more actively pursued, and we should have more and more river taxis going up and down the Thames. But for some unknown reason, nobody can make it work financially.
And finally, one from Carl on Facebook. He says, Porky, this is from Jamie. When you wake up with a seriously bad hangover, how do you deal with yours after a night on the blooderation?
I very rarely have hangovers. That's happened all my life when I used to drink much more intensely, much more heavily than I do now, perhaps on a regular basis, nightly or 4 times a week or something like that. I very rarely drink to the extent now that would promulgate a hangover, but if I do get one, I try to get out of bed at 5:30 the following morning and get active that day. And I find by 8:30 or 9 o'clock, the excesses of the night before have been worked off. Seriously, if I say, no, I'm going to do this, I'm going to go out and I'm going to walk a mile to the paper shop, get myself some papers, I'm going to walk back, because I only ever do it at the weekend anyway, I can literally, through physical effort, dispel the effects of excess alcoholic intake inebriation.
Indeed.
Moderation, it's known as.
It's absolutely right, in moderation. That was Ask Porky. There'll be another one next week, although not same time, because next week we're on Talk Radio.
Yes.
However, lots more to come. This is Talk Sport.
Indeed.
Talk Sport, we are the two mics. Nat has sent us a note to say, just got home after a night of mass bladderation.
Yes.
Any chance of a shout out to make tomorrow's podcast even more enjoyable? There you are, Nat. I tell you what, it's 3:45 in the morning.
Yeah.
It's not bad going, because his tweet is perfectly written as well.
Well, considering
so
it's...
normally, I mean, if you or I got home at 3:45, you'd be making the odd typo, I would have thought.
I certainly would, and I particularly admire the fact that the bladderation nights happen on a Tuesday night.
Yes.
Because we're now Wednesday morning, of course, whereas my modus operandi almost all my life was that the bladderation, campaign used to start about Thursday, go into Friday, and extend to Saturday and Sunday.
Yes.
But Mondays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays were always pretty sacrosanct, really.
No, I don't remember that being the case, but you've got a different memory to me. And Leah sent a picture of a load of people watching a squash game in China, saying that guy was absolutely right. We actually saw a game on TV in a glass court. 10,000 people were watching it.
10,000? Yeah, well...
and Maxwell says the Earth is losing 50,000 tonnes of mass every single year.
In what respect?
Well, in terms of weight.
How do you justify that?
Well,
how's it losing?
Well, I don't know. It's something that escapes from the atmosphere, I think.
Well, it's a ridiculous load of nonsense. It's a scientific figure. Now, listen, I'm grateful to you for pointing out to me the fact that a national newspaper has now taken up my campaign in a huge way about cycle lanes.
Right.
And it's called The Cycle Lane Lunacy. It's
Yes.
published in the Daily Mail this morning.
So the Daily Mail's finally caught up with you.
Finally caught up with me. And it says more and more are being built across Britain, causing gridlock and pollution. The maddest thing of all, they're often empty.
Oh, yeah.
They're always empty.
Well, they're not always empty.
They are empty for 22 hours out of 24.
For quite a lot of the time. I mean, when I was coming in tonight, I saw
Yes.
2 cyclists coming down the Blackfriars Road
Yes.
in the cycle lane, but that was it.
Yeah.
It wasn't, so technically it wasn't empty.
Sure. What Tom says here, and by the way, this is not London-centric. I warned people years ago they're building cycle lanes in London. Believe me, the mad councillors of Manchester, of Durham, of Newcastle, of Nottingham, of Cardiff would get round to doing exactly the same once they got to these local council meetings and start building cycle lanes all over the place. And in London, Tom says there used to be a road called the Embankment, and that would get you from east to west.
Yes.
It would, wouldn't it?
It would. Well, now that, of course, they've closed, and without, again, we always say without getting too London-centric, I mean, now they've closed Tower Bridge, I guess where they're set, all the traffic that comes to the east of London now, on the north side of the river, is sent along what is Lower Thames Street,
right,
which has only got one lane now.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
So, I mean, not only have they shut the bridge, which is always now causing
total gridlock,
but it's now going to be, I mean, you can't get around.
No, total gridlock. It says not anymore, the embankment is not anymore. If you flag down a black taxi and has to travel along the Victoria thoroughfare that borders the Thames in central London, and passengers are met by the driver's pitying stare and a meter that just ticks on and on and on.
Yeah.
Where once it could hold 4 lanes of traffic, which is a quarter of the road, has now been given over to a dedicated 2-way cycle lane. Traffic has been brought to a virtual standstill, and it's still far from being the only one of London's key routes to be compromised in this way. And it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true.
Well, I couldn't be more sort of unsurprised. You'd be very happy that the newspapers picked up on your campaign.
Yes.
But obviously, they're going to be carrying on with that.
Yeah.
Now, in the same newspaper today, interestingly enough, did you see that hoo-ha about Michael Gove, who has been accused of being my doppelganger, apart from other things?
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Because he came out with a tweet, and he was, I mean, the story that I read actually said that people were recommending that he gets off Twitter because he's made such a fool of himself, right? So I thought...
fool of himself by doing what?
I thought to myself, well, what's he done? Has he insulted some, head of state? Has he said something stupid about Theresa May? Has he given away some secret about his marriage? No. What he apparently did was he tweeted out that he thought that the Mrs. Brown's Boys, the TV show, was a work of genius, right? And loads of people jumped all over him and said, what a complete idiot you are.
Yeah.
It's rubbish, right?
Yeah.
Absolute rubbish. But
is this the one where a bloke dresses up as Mrs. Brown and then swears a lot?
I think so. I mean, I've never seen it.
I've never seen it.
I mean, you're the man who's going to do Porky Vision tomorrow.
Sure.
So I was rather hoping you might give me some insight into what it's actually about.
Yes.
However, as you know, his wife writes for the Mail.
Yes, on Sarah Vine, yes.
And on the opposite page from that cycle lane stuff, she's defending her husband, saying, yet more proof that the Metropolitan Twitterati are out of touch. My husband took to Twitter, as they say, to praise his favourite TV show, Mrs. Brown's Boys, whereupon a slew of lovey hate was sprayed in his direction.
Really?
And so she's also defending it, saying it's a great show. But apparently it's not very popular with the sort of the trendy types. Yeah. So I was going to seek your guidance on what it's about.
I can't pass an opinion on it because I've never seen it. I think I sort of surfing the channels once. I came across it, but it's clearly a man who's dressed as a woman with a curly wig and a very, very sort of stereotyped, sort of miserable old woman, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they speak in Irish. With
and
an
it's
Irish
won a lot of
accent.
awards. I mean, she's saying it's a bit more like the old-fashioned sort of variety shows of Dick Emery and Les Dawson sort of day.
Well...
So maybe you'd like it.
Well, maybe, but Dick Emery and who'd you say? Dick Emery and
Les Dawson.
Les Dawson never used any swear words. They didn't need to, And
well, I'm not aware that they use a lot of swear words.
No,
it was on regular TV, so I mean, why would they be swearing?
Don't know. But
more research may be required.
Doesn't make any sense to me, that one at all. I have to say, it doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Okay.
Now then, we have to look to the rest of the week. Okay,
we do
because
we've got to think about the Porky quiz, haven't we?
The Porky quiz, yeah.
So what do you fancy the Porky quiz on?
Porky quiz this week. I mean, I'm thinking about events that are happening. Things that have happened over the last sort of 24, 48 hours. Things like, for instance, Kim Kardashian.
Well, I see she's still on the front pages.
Still on the front pages, and in fact, she's on the front page of some papers today that should have put her on the front page yesterday. But didn't realise it was a massive story.
Massive error of judgment on their part.
Yes, I'm afraid so.
But still no real sort of clues as to how it could have possibly happened in the way that it did.
And
lots of noises being made today coming out of Kanye West's group, saying that they're going to hunt these people down and they're going to sort of punish them in their own way. Well, and you go, well, hang on, isn't that what the police's job is?
Yeah, they're sort of making out, aren't they, in a way that you shouldn't cross Kanye West because he's a very wealthy pop star. And
well, he's also the undercurrent is that he might be a bit of a bad guy as well.
I was going to say
so
that
he knows some bad people.
Don't think that gangster rap is just the name of some music. When it comes to messing with Kanye, you get yourself into real trouble and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, right.
I suppose there's an element of that about it, but we wouldn't want to get involved in too much of that, would we?
Now, Dave has tweeted us regarding the traffic problems.
Yes.
He said, if you think London's bad, try drive through Preston City Centre.
Is that
it's
right?
Total gridlock.
Preston City Centre? Yeah, I didn't know that. But it doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, look, the position regarding the cyclists is that it is the latest great sort of lovey fad. Everyone's got to be a cyclist. But it's made an appalling mess of cities. The economies will definitely suffer. I mean,
do you know what I read the other day as well? Is that they're bringing out new versions of the Boris bike, so they're going to be more comfortable and more kind of easy to ride because they actually look very heavy and very sort of clunky.
I agree. The problem is that if it takes, as it did us, 30 minutes to get from here to the other side of London Bridge, then the economy is grinding to a halt in London. If you can't move around, you can't do anything. And it's right, the Victoria Embankment, which is on the... Which side of the river is it? The north side.
On the north side.
North side, yeah.
Where Victoria is.
Yeah, exactly. It used to be a free highway, and you could whiz down it. You get to the House of Commons, go round Parliament Square, and then whiz off down.
Well, I used to come in that way all the time because the congestion charge would start at Lambeth Bridge, and I'd just go over Lambeth Bridge and make my way to Canary Wharf that way.
That's right.
You couldn't even think about doing that now.
Couldn't think about doing that now, and you see the problem is in London. First of all, Ken Livingstone introduced the bus lanes. So he took 1/3 of all the road
space.
Which
is okay. I don't have a problem with that.
I do, because they're empty a lot of the time, or they're full of buses that have nobody on them.
Yeah, but taxis can use them as well.
Black taxis can use them, but the Uber taxis can't.
No, but that's fine, though.
Yeah, well...
So the black taxis have an advantage.
I've got no problem with that. But nevertheless, it takes 1/3 of the road space from the majority of road users, which are private car drivers, okay?
Yes, right.
So we get the literally mad policy of, well, let's turn another 1/3 of the road space, or half of what's left, into cycle lanes, which are used, I would say, between about 6:30 and 8:30 in the mornings, between about 4:30 and 6 o'clock in the evenings, and for the rest of the day, they are literally empty. It's like looking down 2 long runways at Heathrow Airport with nothing on them in either direction. It's a disgrace, because what should have happened is that the bikes should have been given access to that particular road space during rush hours, if necessary, and then the space should be available to cars for the rest of the day. Yeah. But the way they've designed it with high curbs... You're not going to
just keep going on about this forever, though, are you?
Well, I spotted it. I spotted it. Now the rest of the world is suddenly catching up. So I think that,
Why are you shouting?
Because I'm telling everybody I spotted this so far back that somebody should have done something about it before it became an epidemic.
Well, yeah, but
it's now an epidemic.
But you weren't talking about it because of the good of mankind. You were talking about it because you found yourself inconvenienced when you were driving backwards and forwards to the office.
My concern is for society and the economy of big cities, and the economy of big cities in this country are being driven into the ground by the fascist policy of the cyclist lobby.
It's not quite a fascist policy.
It is.
Yeah, well. Anyway, what are we going to do a quiz on this week?
You will do as we tell you to do.
Yeah. Well, but you don't have to, though, do you?
Well, you do, because...
What are you doing, by the way?
What are you doing? You have to accord to the bike lane policy, i.e. you can't drive on certain parts of the road. Damn disgrace.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough. I mean, it's one of those things. It may well get reversed in times to come, but at the moment, they might as well get used to it and deal with it.
Well, you can't deal with it because I'm afraid it's bringing major cities, and London's one of them, to a grinding halt, and it's a disgrace.
All right.
Utter disgrace.
Well, I think you made that point.
Yeah.
What are we going to do a quiz on?
No, what are we doing the quiz on? I think we'll decide that tomorrow evening.
Tomorrow evening?
Yes.
Porky Vision is, of course, tomorrow evening.
Yes.
We'll be looking forward to that. We'll be getting ever closer to the international games coming up.
Yeah.
A couple of good ones. I mean, because England playing Malta is not terribly exciting, you'd have to say. But we've got lots more to do between now and the end of the week. And then, of course, on Saturday, we're on the warm-up again, and it's a 3-hour show, 11 o'clock until 2 o'clock.
That's right.
In the afternoon.
I suppose we could do the quiz on Malta.
We could do a quiz on Malta.
Quiz on Malta.
That might be good.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see if we can take that one on board.
Yeah.
Well, you can decide.
No, I think probably not, but we'll decide tomorrow.
We can decide tomorrow. This is Talk Sport.
If you love the Two Mics podcast, you'll love the live show. Weekday overnights from 1am on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM and via the Talk Sport app. Talk Sport, your Premier League station with exclusive commentaries every weekend.
What an absolute corker!